Chapter 192. Sir Chairman, you don't have any money on you? When they entered the falling rain forest, Agnes, who had been silently leading the way, suddenly stopped. She turned around to look at Sue and searched her body for a bit before taking out a handful of gold coins for Sue. Here, I only have this much on me right now, you can use it first. Sue looked at the gold coins in Agnes' slender hands in a daze before looking up at Agnes' serious expression. He asked in a confused voice, "What are you doing? Didn't you just say to Chief Saluka that you don't have any money? I don't have any use for these gold coins right now, so I'll just give them to you first," Agnes replied with a natural expression. Sue finally understood her meaning. He pushed her hand back, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, and said, "Agnes, when I said I don't have any money, it's not that I don't have any money, but rather that our new flyer doesn't have any money. Do you understand what I mean?" The company doesn't have any money? Agnes' eyes opened wide in shock. Then she looked down at the several dozen gold coins in her hands and shook her head. "I'm afraid this bit of money isn't enough. How about when you see the elder later, you can ask the elder to borrow a bit first. Didn't the elder just take the wages you gave the clansmen last time? It seems to be several thousand gold coins." Seeing the innocent face of Agnes, Sue couldn't help finding it a bit funny. "Agnes, it seems like you still don't understand my meaning. When I said the company doesn't have any money, it means we don't have any liquid funds right now. The meaning is that if the company needs money right now, we won't be able to take out any cash. And if the company really needs money, several thousand gold coins is far from enough. Then what do we do? If we really need money and can't take it out, wouldn't our company meet a large problem?" Agnes was a bit worried. "Sir Chairman, have you thought of a way? Relax, it's not as serious as you think. It's just a short period of time problem. Then again, as long as we wait a bit, the company will naturally earn enough money." Sue waved his hand and comforted her. "Oh, that's good." Agnes' expression calmed down. After thinking about it, she asked in a doubtful voice, "But Sir Chairman, why is the company suddenly out of money? I remember that our new flyer has been earning quite a bit of money in the past few months. Last time I heard Manager Seabass say that the companies earned over 100,000 gold coins just last month." "That's because you didn't notice how much money he said we spent, right?" Sue said with a smile. "Our companies because we've been in the past few months, we've eat because we've SS not mentioning anything else, just the Falling Rain Valley cost over 300,000 gold coins, the Falling Rain Road cost over 100,000, and the road between Banta City and Karma City cost another 100,000. TT have monies TT's money. TTS. Agnes stuck out her tongue. "So there's still 20,000 gold coins. I thought that we wouldn't even have a single gold coin." Sue couldn't help rolling his eyes. Agnes had been by his side for several months now. Why did she still seem like she didn't care about worldly matters? Could it be that the elves were like the legends? Because their lifespans were too long, it was hard for them to change? Thinking of this, Sue couldn't help looking at the dark falling rain forest in front of him. He thought that if the elves were like this, then Elder Elucia's wish for the elves to coexist with humans would be hard to realize. "This is also my worry." Elder Elucia gave a slight nod. "So I want Agnes to stay by your side the entire time. This is because human merchants have the most ideas and the most flexible minds among you humans. If Agnes can stay by your side and learn the flexibility of humans from you, I believe that the other elves will be able to do the same. The problem is, I feel that Agnes hasn't changed that much compared to the first time I met her, rather I feel that she's even more naive." Sue said with a frown. "No, it's the opposite. Compared to when she lived in the tribe, Agnes has already changed quite a bit." Elder Elucia shook her head with a faint smile. The Agnes before was a very simple child, she only considered things very simply. But now, according to what you just said, she has already learned not to show herself when you say you don't have money. Rather, she waited until you entered the falling rain forest before expressing her thoughts to you. Can be said that she has already learned the important thing for you humans to know. Sui was speechless. This was a skill that almost all humans were born with, so why did it become something worthy of praise for Agnes? Because you are humans and we are elves. Elder Elucia gave a very simple and honest answer to Sui's question. Sui shook his head, still unable to understand the thoughts of the elves. Alright, let's put Agnes' change aside for now and talk about proper business. Sui took out the plastic casing of the new generation magic fan from his backpack and handed it over. Elder Elucia looked it over before doubtfully looking at Sui. Is there a problem with this plastic casing? There isn't a problem if you look at it alone. But Sui leaned forward and pointed at a beautiful flower design on the top right corner of the casing. If you compare this to the other magic fan casings, there will be a problem. Elder Elucia looked at the beautifully carved flower and was still very doubtful. I don't see a problem with this. This flower is very beautifully carved. This flower itself is a problem, Sui said with a serious look. Elder Elucia, when we asked your Night Song tribe to help our company make the plastic casings for the magic fans, I gave you several blueprints for the casings, right? Elder Elucia stood up to look through a box and took out several blueprints. It's still here. Then Elder, please take a look. Is there a flower design on the casings? Sui asked. Elder Elucia looked at the blueprints and shook her head. It's not on the blueprints. So that means when making the casings for the magic fan, the elves responsible for making it didn't follow the blueprints? Sui kept asking. It seems like it. Elder Elucia nodded, but she still had a doubtful look. But Chairman Su, I still don't understand what the problem is with this. There is an extra beautiful design on the casings for the magic fan. Could it be that it doesn't make the casings look better? There isn't a problem if you say it like this. But Honorable Elder, this magic fan is not a single one. Rather, it is a very normal magic fan that our company makes in large quantities. Doing this will create a very large problem, Sui said with a serious look. Seeing the serious look on Sui's face, Elder Elucia thought about it before sitting down again. She said to Sui with a serious look, Chairman Su, I don't understand what you mean. Please explain it in detail. Alright. Sui wasn't polite as he picked up the casings for the magic fan and said, Elder, if one of the magic fans has this design and the other doesn't, then the two magic fans have the same price. If you want to buy a magic fan, which one would you buy? It's clearly the one with the design because this one looks better. Elder Elucia replied. Alright. This means that at the same price, the magic fan without the design might not be able to be sold, right? Not certain, perhaps you humans will like the one without the design even more. This possibility can't be ruled out. But Elder Elucia, don't you have to admit that the price of these two magic fans should be different? Because of the difference in the pattern, their value will be different. Yes. Then here's the problem. This magic fan's casings belong to the same batch as the other magic fan casings without the design. If these casings were installed on the magic fan, it would be difficult to set the price for this batch of magic fans. This is because the people who buy the magic fans won't accept a product with a different value at the same price. Sui raised the plastic casings in his hand. So when our company produces the magic fans, these casings are treated as defective products and aren't included in the production process. Defective products? Elder Elucia looked at Sui in surprise. Chairman Su, in the hands of our elves, how could there be defective products? You must have made a mistake somewhere. Sui slightly knit his brows before saying with a serious look, Honorable Elder, whether you're willing to admit it or not, these are the rules of our company. Components that don't meet the standards are considered defective products. Seeing Sui's serious expression, Elder Elucia was silent for a bit before giving a slight nod. All right, since this is something made according to the requirements of your company, then it should be made according to your standards. You're right. Sui looked at Elder Elucia, and after confirming that she didn't have any strange emotions, he continued, Actually, this casings is only one of the casings that I picked out, and it isn't that serious. What's more serious is that its entire appearance has changed, so it can't be assembled with the other magic fans at all. After the final inspection of the 20,000 magic fan casings that you finished, there were over 30% defective products. So, Your Excellency Elder, I specially came this time to ask this. Just what is going on? Chapter 193. 30%? Elder Elucia's expression changed. After thinking about it, she asked, Chairman Su, can I ask, how serious are the losses to your company? According to the contract we signed before, our new flyer has delayed the production of a small part of the magic fan, causing a batch of orders not to be completed on time. Therefore, we have to pay the other side a penalty of 3,000 gold coins. Sui replied. Elder Elucia revealed a sincere look of apology. I'm sorry, Chairman Su. I will think of a way to make up for the losses we've caused to your company. Sui looked at Elder Elucia for a while before slowly shaking his head. He said with a sigh, Elder Elucia, actually a loss of 3,000 gold coins isn't much to our company. Compared to this, your tribe's losses are much bigger. Elder Elucia looked at Sui in surprise. Why do you say this? First, this time because there were defective products from your Nightsong tribe. According to the contract, the losses from these defective products should be borne by your Nightsong tribe. According to the rules of us human merchants, you should compensate our new flyer with enough gold coins. Elder Elucia said with a simple nod, That is right, but our tribe doesn't have enough gold coins right now. We'll talk about this in the future. Sui waved his hand and said in a deep voice, Second, this time our new flyer has asked your Nightsong tribe to help our new flyer produce 20,000 magic fans, but there are over 30% defects in the products you've delivered. According to the rules of humans, our company will have serious doubts about your Nightsong tribe's abilities. Even if we have similar orders in the future, we won't consider looking for your Nightsong tribe to complete them. Elder Elucia was silent for a while before she said with some difficulty, I understand. This is a matter of credibility. It was undoubtedly a very difficult decision for an elf to admit that her tribe had a reputation problem in front of the humans, who they all thought had no credibility to speak of. However, Elder Elucia still admitted it very honestly. Sui couldn't help but admire Elder Elucia. If it weren't for finding a way out for the Nightsong tribe and the entire elven race, she would never have put down the pride of the elves and frankly admitted the shortcomings of the elves. The last point is the most important one. From this plastic shell production, I've found that there is a large problem with your Nightsong tribe, or rather the elves. That is... After saying this, Sui stopped. After hesitating for a while, he didn't say anything. Elder Elucia smiled faintly. Please don't hold back. Just say it. Sui looked at her, paused, and then nodded. Okay, then I'll just say it. The problem is that the elves' personalities are generally very casual. Or to put it in a more direct way, it's very undisciplined. After saying that, Sui looked at Elder Elucia nervously. He wasn't sure how the other party would react if she heard him criticize her entire race so rudely. However, Elder Elucia's reaction was beyond his expectations. After hearing this evaluation, Elder Elucia was stunned for a moment, then she fell into deep thought for a long time. She thought for more than half an hour until Sui's legs were a little numb. Elder Elucia seemed to have suddenly woken up. She smiled apologetically at Sui and said, I'm sorry. I suddenly thought of something from a long time ago, and got a little distracted. A long time ago? Sui was secretly speechless. According to Elder Elucia's age, The long time ago she was talking about was probably a few hundred years ago. That was really a long time ago. Chairman Su, regarding your evaluation just now, I carefully thought about it and suddenly realized that the word discipline has never existed in the language of the elves. This word appeared later, and we learned it from you humans. But we elves have never understood the meaning of this word. Elder Elucia said with a heavy expression. Su-yi was a little confused. Didn't understand the meaning of this word? What does that mean? In other words, Elder Elucia had a bitter smile on her face. We elves have never had any discipline from the beginning. Su-yi was stunned. In the rumors about the elves on the signs, the most adjectives were beautiful, elegant, mysterious, powerful, and arrogant. But no one had ever associated the word discipline with the elves. Regarding the reason why humans were able to seize the dominance of the continent from the elves thousands of years ago, the humans later concluded that it was time for the continent to change owners. Humans were born at the time, and with their unique creativity and strong learning ability, they finally controlled the entire continent. But regarding the failure of the elves, it was rarely mentioned. Now that he heard Elder Elucia's words, Su-yi suddenly seemed to have grasped something. But Elder Elucia didn't give Su-yi more time to think. She suddenly stood up and said to Su-yi, Chairman Su, please come with me. Let's go see how our clansmen are making these plastic shells, and how there is a 30% defective rate. Looking at Elder Elucia's back as she walked out the door, Su-yi suddenly felt a trace of a cold aura that he had never felt before from her. After leaving the Night Song tribe's settlement that was surrounded by a few big trees and walking for less than 100 meters, a large open space the size of a standard football field appeared in the falling rain forest. And in this open space, there were more than 100 elves busy at this time. Looking from the left, one could see strong male elves running out of the forest from time to time, holding a large glass bottle in their hands. They came to the left side of the open space and poured the contents into a large porcelain jar. Steam rose from the large porcelain jar, and the rosin of the resin kept coming out. As the temperature gradually increased, the green light representing the magic array at the bottom of the large porcelain jar kept flashing. The impurities inside the resin were gradually separated and floated on the surface. When all the impurities were taken care of, the elves on the side took out the impurities and poured the resin from the large porcelain jar into another container. There were also elves that added an unknown light blue powder. After being stirred, the light yellow liquid became a bit viscous and the color gradually turned into a light blue. Finally, under the guidance of the other elves, the resin was poured into a mold that had already been prepared. After a period of natural cooling, it formed a magic fan shell. Although the entire process seemed rough, with the special magic of the elves, the final plastic shell was even better than the ones made by the plastic factories on Earth. Moreover, because of the nature of the elves, after the resin was turned into a plastic shell, it could still maintain the fragrance of the resin. It wasn't like the special smell of normal plastic. There didn't seem to be any problems with this process, as the elves finished their work in an orderly manner. But if one looked at it for a while, they would find that there would be some elves who would stop working and walk around, even singing and dancing. The other elves didn't find this situation strange at all. There was even an elf that was a bit too excited when adding the additives to the material, as he threw in a large amount. However, he actually allowed this batch of raw materials to enter the next step of the process. As a result, the final plastic shell that was made was obviously deformed. When he looked at the final step of the formation process, he found something even more shocking. A few elves who seemed to be bored actually gathered around the shell that was gradually taking shape in the mold. After discussing for a while, one of the elves picked up a branch from the ground and began to draw on the shell that had yet to take shape. When he finished, perhaps it was because they felt that the pattern he drew was very beautiful, but the elves happily clapped their hands. Su-yi's face couldn't help twitching a few times. although he had already guessed from the high defect rate of more than 30% that the elves weren't very strict when producing these plastic shells. He never would have thought that these elves would be so casual in the proper production process. If it were the human workers in the new flyer factory, Sue-Yi would definitely not say anything and fire all of them. He turned his head to look at Elder Elucia and found that her face was still calm, but her furrowed brows revealed that her mood was definitely not good. The two of them were under the influence of Elder Elucia's shadow hiding technique, so they didn't have to worry about being discovered by the elves. But looking at the behavior of these elves, it really wasn't a pleasant feeling. "Chairman Su, in your company's factory, how do the human workers work?" Elder Elucia suddenly asked. Sui looked at the elves in the distance who didn't seem to be serious at all and shook his head. "I don't know, but it's definitely not like them." "Is that so?" Elder Elucia pondered for a moment and continued. "Chairman Su, actually, I don't really understand what discipline means. Before, I didn't think that there was anything wrong with the way our clansmen were acting, but after talking with you today, I found that it is indeed wrong. But how to change it, I don't know. Chairman Su, do you have any good ideas? Do you really want to change them?" Sui asked. "Yes. Then it's simple, teach them to me. There is a very simple way to change them, and that is—" Su-Yi's mouth revealed a trace of a cold smile. "Special training." Chapter 194. The new flyer was holding a product announcement again. Because of the experience of the last two product announcements, when the new flyer announced the product announcement 3 days ahead of time in the Banta Times, everyone was very expectant. At this product announcement, other than the new product announcement, what other big news would the new flyer announce? Even if the location of this product announcement was the Santon Manor that was 15 kilometers away from Banta City, on the day of the announcement, there were countless people who came from Banta City, and even cities further away to the Santon Manor. The current Santon Manor was already completely different from when Viscount Santon still owned it. With the several dozen small and large companies gradually building their factories and entering a stable state of operation, the area around the Santon Manor was filled with the sounds of magic machines, making it very lively. Regarding this change, whether it was the newspapers of Banta City or the surrounding cities, they had all reported on it. The newspapers of the capital Anvilmar City had even done a series of reports and analyses on this situation, trying to determine the effects and consequences of this on Banta City. No one could tell what the effects and consequences would be for now, but the effects and consequences that could be seen were that other than the factories of the various companies around the small Santon Manor, and because there were too many workers here, there were many companies that opened shops here, providing various services to the workers. Originally, there were already several thousand workers here. In addition to the people who provided the living services and those who simply moved to the nearby area, the current permanent resident population of this area had already exceeded 10,000. So in and out of Banta City, there were many people who secretly called this place Santon Town. Today, the new flyer was holding a product announcement, and there were countless people who came to Santon Town for the announcement. Just the breakfast shops were sold out and they made a small fortune. When the Xinfei Chamber of Commerce announced that the product announcement would be held at 10 in the morning, it was like everyone had been summoned as they flooded into the Santon Manor. Seeing all the empty spaces in the manor filled with people, Sue revealed a faint smile. Not mentioning anything else, just the new flyer's product announcement itself was already a brand with the power to rally people. Based on this, if the new flyer wanted to release a product in the future, they just needed to hold a product announcement and there would be enough advertising. They didn't need to spend any effort at all. Seeing that it was time, Sue took 2 steps forward and stood on the stage that had been set up. The noisy crowd in the manor immediately quieted down and everyone's eyes fell onto him. "Hello everyone! Welcome to our new Flyers product announcement. I know why everyone is so interested in our product launch. In addition to being curious about our new product, I'm afraid you're more curious about whether something else will happen. Am I right?" When Su Yi's voice fell, the crowd below the stage. "Ha ha, Chairman Su, you're right." "That's right, Chairman Su. What big news is coming out today? We're looking forward to it." "That's right. I came all the way here just for this. As for your new product, you'll know after the announcement." "Hey you guys, the main focus of the product announcement is the product. If you talk about other things, you're not giving Chairman Su any face. Am I right, Chairman Su?" Sui laughed. He pointed at the reporter who had good eyes and said, "You're right. I remember you're a reporter from the Canberra Sun, right? After the announcement, I'll give you half an hour to talk to me alone. As long as I can answer your questions, I'll answer them." "Really?" The reporter from the Canberra Sun was overjoyed. The reporters around him looked at him with envy and jealousy in their eyes. All the reporters were clear that because the new Flyer always made some new things, as long as they reported on the new Flyer, it would attract more people to read the newspaper. The core of the new Flyer was the chairman Su Yi. The people of the cities around Banta City were all curious about Su Yi, so of course they liked to read reports on him. This reporter from the Canberra Sun being able to get a special interview with Su Yi was a very lucky thing. It had to be known, this chance was only given to the reporters from the Banta Times. Alright, let's return to the main focus of the announcement, which is the new product our new Flyer is announcing this time. Su Yi raised his voice and cut off the whispers under the stage. Everyone doesn't need to be disappointed. I dare guarantee that just the product itself will be enough to surprise you because it will change your lives. Next, let's invite the manager of our new Flyers Household Magic Machine Workshop, Enchantment, to introduce this new product to everyone. Seeing Su Yi retreat while clapping, everyone was stunned. Why wasn't it Su Yi introducing the new product this time, but rather it was this Enchantment? According to Su Yi's introduction, this Enchantment was the manager of the Household Magic Machine Workshop. It seemed like he was an important person in the new Flyer. However, when Enchantment walked onto the stage, everyone was surprised to find that this Enchantment was actually a young man who looked to be in his early 30s at most. He didn't have the slightest bit of the mature, steady, or even old-fashioned appearance that everyone had in mind. Instead, he seemed to be full of youthful energy, and radiating vitality. "Hello everyone, I am Enchantment." Facing everyone's gaze, Enchantment introduced himself in a loud voice. "Just like the chairman introduced, I am the manager of the Household Magic Machine Workshop. I am mainly responsible for managing the production of the household magic machines for the company. Because the new product this time is in the category of household magic machines, the chairman had me introduce it to everyone." Seeing Enchantment talking in front of everyone without any stage fright, Su Yi secretly nodded. Although Heinz was a bit petty and short-sighted, his eyes for people weren't bad. After this Enchantment was promoted, not only did he quickly manage the Household Magic Machine Workshop, he also gradually showed his leadership skills and established a high prestige in the Household Magic Machine Workshop. Now Su Yi didn't need to care about the Household Magic Machine Workshop at all. No matter what happened, Enchantment could take care of it to satisfy Su Yi. This time he had pushed Enchantment out to introduce the new product in his place because he wanted to train him. He wanted him to become a high-level manager of the new Flyer that everyone was familiar with. Enchantment didn't disappoint him. Even if this was his first time appearing in front of all these people, he was only a bit nervous in the beginning. After that, he became much more relaxed, looking like a great general. After saying a few simple opening words, Enchantment came to the center of the stage in front of a box that was covered in a red cloth. He paused for a bit, and when everyone's eyes were on the red cloth, he suddenly reached out to lift it. The red cloth flew away, and there was a silver-colored object that was around a meter tall, 1.5 meters long, and half a meter wide, that was supported by 4 wheels that appeared in front of everyone. Everyone was confused as they looked at this unknown square object. After a while, a reporter asked, "Manager Encato, what is this thing called? What is it used for?" "It's called the magic freezer. As for its use..." Encato moved the cuboid, and the people close found that from this magic freezer, there was a visible chill that came out. Then everyone saw Encato take out a piece of ice that was around the size of his palm from the magic freezer. Everyone suddenly understood. So this magic freezer had been filled with ice ahead of time. Could it be that the temperature inside was this low? No, you've guessed wrong. Encato shook his head. This piece of ice wasn't placed in ahead of time. Rather, it was a cup of water that I personally put in, and now this cup of water has condensed into ice. If you don't believe me, look at the shape of this ice cube. Isn't it the same as a cup of water? Everyone looked over and found that the shape of this ice cube was indeed a bit special. It was thick at the top and thin at the bottom, with several unique concave arcs at the bottom. It was the same shape as a cup of water. You're saying that the inside of this magic freezer is this cold? It can actually directly freeze water into ice? A reporter asked. Right. This is the use of the magic freezer. Under the effect of magic, it can maintain a low temperature that can freeze water into ice. Everyone looked at each other in blank dismay. Another reporter couldn't help asking, "Then what use does it have? Could it be that this thing can only be used to make ice?" Of course it's not that simple. Encato revealed a faint smile. He reached out and took out a piece of frozen beef from the magic freezer, raising it high up. "Look, I bought this piece of beef in Banta City yesterday. If this piece of beef couldn't be finished yesterday, it would definitely spoil today. But now that it's placed in the magic freezer, there's no problem even if it stays there for several weeks. Look, doesn't it have any rot on it at all?" The people closer came over to take a look and found that other than a few pieces of ice on the head, there wasn't a single trace of rot on it. Seeing this effect, everyone couldn't help secretly nodding. Not mentioning anything else, just this magic freezer being able to keep the meat from rotting was already very useful. Although there were people who used high-level ice-attributed magic arrays to keep things fresh, the cost was too high. Only rich people could afford it, and normal people didn't even need to think about it. So when normal families could finally eat meat, they had to finish it in a short period of time, which really wasn't satisfying. Now that there was this magic freezer, normal families could slowly enjoy the meat they bought. Other than this, the magic freezer can also make some delicious things. Encato turned and looked at a young girl who was relatively close to the stage as he asked, "This miss, do you normally like to eat sweet things?" The girl was surprised. Looking around, she nodded. "Alright, then I think that you'll definitely like to eat this thing." Encato took out a small bowl from the magic freezer and bent over to move around in the magic freezer for a bit. When he stood up again, the small bowl was already filled with a pink and soft thing. Encato waved his hand at the girl, signaling for her to come on stage before giving the small bowl to her. "Have a taste, it tastes very good." The girl looked at the unknown thing in the bowl and hesitated a bit. She found that everyone was looking at her, and after thinking about it, she gritted her teeth and used a spoon to put a spoonful of it into her mouth. This thing melted in her mouth, and an ice-cold feeling filled her mouth, as well as an intoxicating sweetness that filled one's heart. The taste was smooth, sweet, and not greasy. Adding in the ice-cold taste, after the girl took a single bite, she couldn't help letting out a satisfied moan. After swallowing the first bite, the girl couldn't resist the temptation. In front of everyone's surprised eyes, she ate several large bites. When she finished eating the entire night and felt that her tongue was a bit numb from the ice, she finally put down the bowl and let out a long sigh. She said to Encato in a surprised voice, Too delicious. Manager Encanto, can you tell me what it is? Encanto revealed a faint smile. It has a very simple name, it's called ice cream. Chapter 195. Perhaps it was because the girl's reaction was too exaggerated, but the ice cream attracted everyone's interest. There were quite a few reporters in the front row who asked to try it. Encanto naturally satisfied their requests one by one. After eating it, although the reporters' reactions weren't as exaggerated as the girls', they still couldn't help loudly praising it. The crowd outside had their appetites piqued by these reporters, but because the ice cream in the magic freezer had already been taken, they could only helplessly watch as the reporters licked their lips. The appearance of the ice cream was only a small interlude, but it gave everyone a deeper understanding of the use of the magic freezer. When Encanto gave a more detailed explanation of the use of the magic freezer, everyone became very interested in the magic freezer. In the end, when Encanto announced that a single magic refrigerator would only cost 18 gold coins, the entire crowd was stirred. Everyone thought that with such a large magic machine with such outstanding functions, it should be very expensive, but they never thought that it would be cheaper than the smaller magic air conditioner. So when they heard this price, almost everyone secretly decided that they had to buy one for their family. When Encanto finally left the questioning of the reporters and Sue came back to the stage, everyone woke up. Without knowing it, they had forgotten their goal in coming to this product announcement and had focused all their attention on the new flyer's new product. Seeing the silence under the stage, Sue said with a smile, "What? Has everyone still not awakened from the shock brought by our new products?" Everyone broke out in laughter and the strange atmosphere from before was swept away. When Encanto came back to the back and saw this scene, he couldn't help admiring Sue even more. He had been a bit nervous when he was on stage, and when he was questioned by the reporters in the end, there were several times when he spoke incoherently. But now that it was Sue's turn to face everyone, he was able to handle it with ease. He could easily control the atmosphere of the entire scene. "Chairman Sue, don't think of lying to us. Quickly speak, what big news is there this time?" "I'm very curious," a reporter said loudly. "That's right. Hurry up and say it. We're all waiting." "Chairman Sue, stop keeping us in suspense. Everyone is getting anxious." "That's right, hurry up and say it, hurry up and say it. Hey, you guys are looking forward to it so much. What if the news I announce later isn't sensational enough, and you guys aren't satisfied? Then wouldn't you want to beat me up?" Sue made an exaggerated expression of surprise. The audience burst into laughter again. "How could that be? We trust you." "That's right. Chairman Sue, you've made so many big news. We're not worried at all." "Yes. Even if you say that you and Miss Steele are getting married, it will still be big news." "Go away. Miss Steele is still young. How can she get married so early? She's going to marry Chairman Sue sooner or later." Sue raised his hands. The noise in the audience instantly returned to silence. Everyone once again focused their attention on him and quietly waited for him to speak. "Well, in order to live up to everyone's expectations, I'll announce a piece of news that will definitely shock you all. This news is..." Facing the unblinking gaze of the audience, Sue deliberately paused and slightly raised his voice before continuing, "New flyer recruited 100 workers 3 days ago." "What?" Everyone below the stage was stunned. After a while, there was a wave of complaint. "No way? Chairman Sue, are you kidding us? How is new flyer recruiting 100 workers big news? Haven't you been recruiting workers?" "That's right. Forget about 100, even if new flyer recruited 1,000. Oh no, recruiting 1,000 all of a sudden would be good news. It's just 100 workers. What's there to be shocked about? Chairman Sue, you've disappointed us. Let me finish." Sue raised his hand again, and the audience became silent again as they all looked at him. Only this time, other than expectation, there was also quite a bit of doubt in their eyes. If it was just recruiting 100 workers, of course it wouldn't be big news and you wouldn't be surprised. But I want to tell you that these 100 workers are a bit special because they are all elves. Huh? The audience was stunned once again. This time, they were stunned for even longer than before. After a while, the audience was even louder than before. 100 elves? It can't be, right? I must have heard wrong. How could this be possible? I was already shocked enough by Miss Agnes alone. How could there be 100 elves all of a sudden? Chairman Sue, you must be joking. Where did you find 100 elves? Does our Lampari kingdom have that many elves? That's right, I've only seen Miss Agnes as an elf in my life, but you're telling me that you found 100 at once. This is too fake. Wait a minute, listen carefully. Chairman Sue isn't saying that he found 100 elves, but rather that these 100 elves will be workers in the new Flyers factory. Huh? That's right, elves will be workers in a human's factory? This is too unbelievable. When everyone's discussion became a bit quieter, the vice editor-in-chief of the Karma Times, Ryan, finally had a chance to raise his hand and loudly ask, Chairman Sue, since you said that these 100 elves will be working in your company's factory, does that mean that these 100 elves are currently in Sandton Manor? Hearing this question, everyone looked into the depths of Sandton Manor, and most of them were looking at the two factories in the distance. Thinking that there might be 100 elves not far from them, everyone couldn't help becoming excited. Your guess is correct, they are currently here. Sui nodded and waved his hand behind him. Everyone looked in the direction Sui was looking in and found that in the distance, there were 2 rows of workers wearing the new Flyer uniform walking out of the door. These workers were all tall and slender without a single exception. Their steps were steady and it seemed like their bodies were very strong. But compared to their figures, what attracted everyone's attention was that on the sides of their heads, there was a pair of long pointed ears. Elves. They really were elves. And it was 100 elves. Everyone couldn't help holding their breaths as they watched the elves quickly walk over and then walk onto the stage one by one. When the elves stood up, Sui loudly said to everyone with a smile, Everyone, let me introduce you. They are elves from the Nightsong tribe and have already been hired by our new Flyer, becoming our company's official workers. Here, I want to appeal to everyone. I hope that everyone won't be like when Agnes first came, harassing them and letting them work here normally, living a normal life. I ask everyone to promise me, all right? After the initial shock, everyone slowly recovered. Looking at the 100 elves on the stage, both male and female, Ryan swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty before saying to Sue, Chairman Sue, I can guarantee this. After all, there was young Miss Agnes before, so everyone won't be as surprised by the appearance of the elves as before. But can I ask, why did these elves suddenly come to work for your new Flyer? Also, I've always been curious as to why your new Flyer could hire so many dwarves to work for you. Could it be that your new Flyer has a special charm? Sui laughed. Perhaps you're right, our new Flyer does have a special charm. But I want to say that the most important thing is that whether it is the dwarves or the elves, we humans should maintain a normal heart and treat them as normal humans. The dwarves and elves also need to live a normal life, so as long as you don't make a fuss over them, you'll find that it's easier to get along with them compared to us humans. Ryan knit his brows. Although Suyi's words were correct, he didn't directly answer his question. But since Sui chose to answer like this, it meant that he didn't plan on giving the real answer. This was not Ryan's first time interacting with Sui, so he knew that there was no point in asking, so he gave up on asking. He changed his tone and asked about the elves working in New Flyer. When the product announcement was over, everyone looked at the reporter from the Canberra Sun with envious gazes again because he had obtained the chance to talk to Sui alone. At the product announcement, Sui didn't answer many of the questions in detail. but since he had personally agreed to an interview, he had to answer in more detail than at the product announcement. But no matter what, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had recruited 100 elves to work for them at once. This was already an explosive and shocking piece of news. Although Agnes' appearance before had shocked everyone, she was only an elf in the end, and 100 elves were two completely different concepts. New Flyer could recruit 100 elves, so did that mean that they could recruit even more elves like they had recruited the dwarves? The more important question was, why did New Flyer recruit so many other race workers? This fellow Sui, just what did he want to do? Chapter 196. I don't want to do anything. Seeing the questioning look on Seveni's face, Sui casually replied. It's just recruiting 100 more elves, there's nothing strange about that, right? Don't forget, our New Flyer has over 500 dwarven workers. The work permits for these dwarves were personally given to me by your highness last time. Seveni's expression wasn't as relaxed as Sui's as she shook her head. Dwarves and elves are different. Although dwarves don't have a close relationship with humans, it can't be considered bad. Moreover, there are many dwarves living in the human world, so humans are more accepting of dwarves. The elves were the previous masters of the continent. Although it has been several thousand years since the race wars, there are still many humans who are wary of the elves. You're thinking too much, Sui said with a frown. There are only a few elves on the signs. I estimate that there aren't even 10,000 of them in the Lampari Kingdom, so what is there to be wary of? Not to mention that the elves have a lower birth rate than us humans. According to what Elder Elucia said, there have only been 2 more elven children born in her tribe in the past 10 years. Do you think this kind of race is worth us humans being wary of? I don't think so, but there are some people who think so. I'm not worried about the elves. Rather, there will be people who will use this as an excuse to attack your New Flyer and bring you trouble. Seveni said with a serious look. Sui revealed a smile. People who want to attack our company can always find an excuse, so they don't care about the elves. Then again, your highness supports our company this much. You can't just sit by and watch, right? Seeing Sui's smile, Seveni rolled her eyes at Sui. Chairman Su, do you know that I've already blocked a lot of trouble for your company? Of course I know. Your Highness is the light and savior of our Frestec Chamber of Commerce. I'm very clear on this. I wish I could take out my heart and give it to you to express my gratitude. Seveni's face turned a bit red as she reprimanded Sui. Her face became serious again as she asked Sui, all right, pay attention to this problem. I'm here mainly for the orders of armor and weapons. I think so too. Rest assured, Your Highness, we have already completed more than 8,000 sets of armor. Give us a few more months, and we will be able to complete the 50,000 sets on the order, Sui said. Not bad. Seveni nodded. However, I'm not here to urge you to complete the order. Instead, I want to make some changes to this order. Modify. Sui saw the unnatural expression on Seveni's face and thought that this modification wouldn't be a small one. As expected, Seveni paused as an apologetic look appeared on her face. Although the army headquarters was very satisfied with the quality of the first batch of armors, there were people who suggested that mass production of armors shouldn't be in the hands of a normal company, rather it should be controlled by the royal family and the army headquarters. So we're not allowed to keep producing armors and are changing the order to production magic machines. Seveni hesitated a bit and Sui immediately asked this. Seveni looked at Sui in surprise. Chairman Su, your reaction really is fast. It's nothing because I've heard this request countless times. Sui gave a shrug. No one wants the things they want to be in the hands of others, so they feel most assured if they control the production method. I understand the worries of His Majesty and the army headquarters. This is very normal. This means, Chairman Su, you agree? Of course, why wouldn't I agree? Sui revealed a faint smile. Then again, Do I have the right to disagree? All right, Your Highness, you don't need to apologize to me because I'm very clear that the military industry is the foundation of a country. It definitely can't be controlled by a small company like us. Even if you didn't make this request today, I would have already found a chance to ask you about this. 70 nodded. Chairman Su, you really are a smart person, you don't need me to explain it to you. Since Chairman Su understands my meaning, I will now formally give you a new request from the Army headquarters. The order of 50,000 sets of armors will remain, but other than that, the Army headquarters will give your new flyer a special order. That is, they hope that your new flyer will help the Army headquarters build a factory that specializes in producing armors and weapons. Su-yi wasn't surprised by this request. He rubbed his chin and thought before asking, Your Highness, building a complete military factory is a very troublesome matter. Other than needing machinery, it also needs a large amount of manpower. Not mentioning anything else, can you find enough workers? I can't. 70 honestly shook her head. So these problems will depend on your new flyer to solve. Depend on us? Su-yi pointed at himself in surprise. Honorable Highness, aren't you and the Army headquarters thinking too highly of our new flyer? Does it make a difference whether I think highly of him or not? Anyway, other than your new flyer, there isn't any other company that can do this, right? 70 said with a faint smile. Su-yi thought about it and could only helplessly admit this fact. Alright, what should we do? Hashtag. It should be said that 70's request on behalf of the king and the Army headquarters was what Su-yi wanted. With new flyer's current strength, it wasn't a good thing to go too deep into the military industry because it would easily arouse the vigilance of certain people. Helping the Army headquarters build a military factory like this would make it easier for those people to accept. Through this matter, not only had Su-yi and New Flyer established a deeper relationship with the Army headquarters, they had also obtained many benefits. For New Flyer, other than the large income from the 50,000 sets of armor, there was also the income from selling large amounts of production magic machines and providing technical guidance. The more important thing was that through this cooperation, Su-yi had asked the royal family for the rights to mine 2 more magic crystal mines. Like this, the Frestek Chamber of Commerce had 3 iron mines and 5 magic crystal mines. These mines, especially the magic crystal mines, perhaps weren't worth much right now, but Su-yi was certain that with the popularization of magic machines, whether it was iron mines or magic crystal mines, their prices would explode. So Su-yi wasn't in a rush to mine these mines. He would leave them for now and wait for the right time to mine them. Other than the benefits that New Flyer received, Su-yi had also received some practical benefit. First, because of this cooperation, the king had given Su-yi a special award. This meant that Su-yi was no longer a normal citizen, but rather a lord of the Lampari kingdom. Although he didn't have any land as a lord and was one of the lowest nobles in the kingdom, this represented a fundamental change in his status. It meant that he had gone from a commoner to a noble. Next, because of this cooperation, the Army headquarters had given Su-yi the status of a special consultant in the Army headquarters. Although this status was just an empty one, it meant that Su-yi could be considered a member of the Army headquarters, giving him many special benefits. Of course, whether it was the identity of a lord or the identity of a special consultant in the Army headquarters, it didn't have any specific uses right now. To Su-yi, the most important identity would always be the New Flyer's chairman. The thing he cared about the most would always be the development of New Flyer. Entering July, because the weather had become hotter, the sales of New Flyer's new generation magic fans and magic air conditioners had exploded. Compared to last month, the magic fans had already sold over 20,000 units in less than half of the month, even surpassing last year's sales. The sales of the magic air conditioners had also exploded. Last summer, there were less than 1,000 magic air conditioners sold. In just the first half of July this year, there were over 3,000 units sold. Moreover, this was just the sales in Banta City. If the sales in the surrounding cities were added in, it would be close to 10,000 units. This didn't include the sales of the store Victor's group opened in Anvilmar City. It had to be known, just that small store had sold over 5,000 units since the beginning of the summer. Even if they included the old ones, the profit of a single magic fan was close to 1 gold coin. The profit of a single magic air conditioner was a shocking 15 gold coins. Just adding these two together, New Flyer's profit in half a month was close to 200,000 gold coins. Not to mention that the new magic refrigerator had quickly opened the market in Banta City and the surrounding cities. In just 10 days, they had sold over 30,000 units. The cost of a single magic refrigerator was only around 4 gold coins, which meant that they could earn 13 to 14 gold coins from a single magic refrigerator. With more than 30,000 units sold, he had earned a terrifying amount of 400,000 gold coins. Your new flyer really is developing quite quickly. Banta City's City Lord Count Samo looked at the tax statistics for the first half of the year in his hand and shook his head. He looked at Sui in front of him and praised, "Last year, in the 6 months since your new flyer was established, you paid less than 20,000 gold coins in taxes. Just last month alone, you paid close to 40,000 gold coins, which means that you earned at least 200,000 gold coins last month. This month, your magic fan, magic air conditioner, and the new magic refrigerator are all selling well. I think that your company will earn at least 500,000 gold coins this month." Sui revealed a smile. He didn't admit it or deny it. "Sir Count, this is just a bit of glory this month. Now that the people of Banta City and the surrounding cities have all bought what they want, you'll see next month. I guarantee that the sales of our company's products will be terrible and we might not even earn 100,000 gold coins next month. I'm worried about what to do." "You're worried? Then wouldn't the chairman of the other companies jump into the river to commit suicide?" Count Samo scolded with a smile. "Alright, your company earning money is a good thing for our Banta City. Now that everyone in Banta City has stable jobs and money to earn, everyone's lives have clearly improved, so it's very easy for me to be the city lord. Speaking of this is all thanks to you and your new flyer." Sui quickly waved his hand. "How could that be? Banta City being able to become like this is all because of Sir Count's wise leadership. It's not related to our new flyer." "Stop flattering me," Count Samo reprimanded. "At least the small companies that appeared because of your plan aren't related to me, and the Sandton Industrial District you mentioned isn't related to me." "How could it not be related? If it wasn't for Sir Count's full support, how could this plan have been passed? How could the Industrial District have been created?" "Sir Count, you really are too modest." Count Samo smiled and shook his head. He flipped through the table in front of him and took out a document to put in front of Sui. "I didn't call you here today to praise you, but rather to ask for donations." Chapter 197. Donations. Sui was stunned. "Sir Count, you're asking for donations from me? What a joke." "It's not a joke, you'll know once you take a look." Samo Count pointed at the document in front of Sui. Sui opened the document and found that it was a plan for Banta City. According to this plan, Samo Count wanted to replan Banta City, connecting the villages outside Banta City to Banta City. It wouldn't be like right now where Banta City was Banta City and the villages outside Banta City were villages. It would be like two different worlds. In order to achieve this, the first thing to do was to build roads. The reason why the villagers outside Banta City and the residents of Banta City seemed like two different worlds was mainly because of the inconvenience of transportation. According to the statistics in the plan, there were a total of 73 villages outside Banta City, and there were only 34 villages that had roads to Banta City. The remaining 39 villages didn't even have a single road to Banta City, So there were many villagers who had never left their villages in their entire lives. So the first step of the overall plan was to build roads that could pass through, connecting all the villages to Banta City. Like this, whether it was the villagers in the villages or the residents of Banta City, they could all communicate with each other. According to the investigation of the people I sent out, there are quite a few valuable things in the villages hidden in the mountains and even in the wetlands, but because they can't be transported out, they are all wasted inside. Among them are the magma fruits you mentioned to me last time. Seeing that Sui had already flipped through the first few pages of the plan, Samo Count said this. If we can build roads that connect these villages, it should be able to improve the lives of the villagers. Sui looked at Samo Count's serious expression and almost felt like he had returned to Earth. Sir Count, this idea isn't bad, but it is very hard to achieve. Sui awkwardly pointed at a map in the planning book and said, Look, those 34 roads that were connected by roads are easy to talk about. We can directly turn those roads into roads, making it easier for the villages. But for the remaining villages, based on the map, most of them can be connected by roads, but there are some that don't have roads at all. I didn't say that we would solve them all at once, that isn't realistic. Samo Count waved his hand. My goal is to first solve the problem of roads in these 34 villages and let these 30 villages develop first. As for the other villages, we'll slowly study them after we investigate them. That's more like it. Sui nodded. He looked at the map for a bit before saying with a bitter smile, But Sir Count, the closest of these 34 villages is less than 2 kilometers away from Banta City and the furthest one is over 20 kilometers. If they are all connected by roads, we'll need to build a total of 400 to 500 kilometers of road. I've already calculated it, we need to build a total of 460 kilometers. Based on the falling rain road, we need a total of around 900,000 gold coins. Samo Count followed. 900,000 gold coins. Sui looked at Samo Count with an awkward look. Sir Count, although our new flyer has earned a bit of money, it's impossible for us to take out 900,000 gold coins at once. Not to mention that you're asking for donations. It's very hard for me to convince myself and the others in the company. It's not like we're asking you to give it for free. What are you worried about? Samo Count glared at Sui. Asking you for help, of course we have to give you benefits. Could it be that I don't understand such a simple principle? Listen well. According to my thoughts, as long as your new flyer is willing to give this money, I can make the decision to exempt your new flyer from paying taxes for a year. In addition, as long as the road is built to a village, your new flyer can obtain the rights to develop that village for 3 years. This means that no matter what your new flyer wants to do in a village, as long as the villagers don't have any objections, I won't care even if you kill or burn. Suyi's eyes lit up. So you're saying that I can do whatever I want in those villages? You can say that. Samo Count nodded. As for whether or not you can earn money, and how much you can earn, that will depend on your ability. Suyi's mind immediately became active. If he agreed to Samo Count, then New Flyer would be exempt from paying taxes for a year. Even with New Flyer's current profits, they should be able to earn at least 3 million gold coins a year. If they were exempt from paying taxes, they could save at least 400,000 gold coins. Then they would only be left with 500,000 gold coins to build the road. As for whether or not he could earn 500,000 gold coins from those villages, Sui wasn't sure yet, but he was confident that he could do it. Alright, it's set like this. But Sir Count, it will take quite a bit of time to build these roads, so we can only slowly build them one village at a time. Sui thought about it before drawing a circle around Banta City with his finger. I feel that we should first set a limit of 10 kilometers from Banta City and build a road network in this range. Then we can slowly push it out and finally connect all of Banta City with roads. This idea isn't bad, it's quite practical. Alright, we'll follow this idea for now. But let's put the matter of building roads aside first. Let's discuss the contents of the plan first. Samo Count flipped through a few pages and pointed at a map in the plan. This is a part of my plan for the outskirts of Banta City. What do you think? Sui looked at it and couldn't help knitting his brows. Sir Count, why does this look so familiar? Samo Count laughed. Of course you're familiar. This design is based on the Falling Rain Valley's design. Sui suddenly understood. Looking carefully, he found that there were many places where this design was similar to the Falling Rain Valley's design. For example, the division of the industrial area and the living area, the construction of the road network, and etc. But after looking at it for a bit, Sui found a problem. Sir Count, you've chosen this place as an industrial area, but there are clearly 2 villages here. Samo Count waved his hand. Just have them move. Then what about the compensation? Compensation? Samo Count looked at Sui in surprise. If you want them to move, they'll move. What compensation? Sui was instantly speechless. Was this sign's forceful demolition? Thinking about it, Sui said to Samo Count, Sir Count, just give this project to me. President Cruz and I are very familiar with this kind of thing. Samo Count looked at Sui with surprise. I originally only wanted you to give me some advice. Since you've taken the initiative to take on this project, then of course it's good. Alright, I'll give this project to the New Flyer and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. I'll wait for your results. Sui nodded in agreement. Sui and Samo Count discussed some general directions and then tactfully declined Samo Count's invitation for dinner. Only then did Sui leave the city lord's mansion. At this time, the sun was about to set. The temperature was lower than when they arrived. A gust of wind blew and brought a trace of coolness. The streets around the city lord's mansion were somewhat restricted, so it was still considered quiet. But once they turned the corner and entered the main road beside the city lord's mansion, they immediately discovered that even though it was close to dinner time, there were still people coming and going on the street. There were all kinds of people coming and going on the street. Some seemed like they were just strolling, but most of them looked very busy, like they had many things to do. Countless shops were lined up on both sides of the street. At the corner of the street, there were also peddlers of all sizes, each occupying a small space and shouting with all their might. Seeing this crowded and lively scene, Sui couldn't help feeling emotional. He remembered that when he came to Banta City last year, because this small city was far away, the pace of life in the city was very slow and very quiet. But now that a year had passed, this small city had become a bustling scene. According to the stats of the city lord's mansion, the current population of Banta City had more than doubled compared to last year. There were less than 50,000 people last year, but now there were over 100,000 people. Moreover, this was just the main city inside the city walls. If the people outside the city walls were included, perhaps the current population of Banta City would be more than double last year's population. The reason for this situation was because there was a large increase in job opportunities in Banta City, so Banta City didn't have enough manpower to support this demand. Adding in the drive of the New Flyer and the large demand for manpower, the average wage in Banta City was quite high. So people from the surrounding cities, including Karma City, Sultan City, and even Canberra City and Norton City all came to Banta City to find work. Now that Banta City was filled with people from various cities, one could hear different accents of signs on the street. This scene made Sui think of the lively scene of the special economic zones on Earth. Of course, the scale was much smaller. While thinking of this, Sui walked in the direction of his home. Steele had said that she would be cooking dinner with Vivian today, so Sui was very much looking forward to this. When he walked halfway down the street, there were several horse carriages that slowly headed towards Sui. Sui looked over and found that these horse carriages had the symbol of the serene Chamber of Commerce. His heart skipped a beat as he walked over to these horse carriages. Chapter 198. The one sitting in the first carriage was the Serene Chamber of Commerce's chairman Rank's assistant Leaf. He had seen Sue at several business union meetings before, so seeing him suddenly appear, he quickly had the carriage stop. "Chairman Sue, why do you have time to take a walk in the city today?" Leaf was in his early 40s and his face was a bit chubby. His smile was a bit like the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Morgan, but it made people feel closer to him than Chairman Morgan. "No, I was just discussing something with the Lord City Lord, so I came out for a walk," Sue replied before looking at the horse carriages behind and saying, "It seems like your harvest this time isn't bad. Have you sold all those magic fans?" Leaf said with a smile, "It's all thanks to Chairman Sue's suggestion that we've sold all the magic fans we had in stock. I won't hide it from you, there is a large demand for magic fans in the other parts of the kingdom." Sue gave a slight nod, thinking that this was an obvious matter. When the new flyer was created last year and the magic fans were sold, it created a boom in Banta City and the surrounding cities. This was enough to prove the impact this new magic machine had on the people of the signs. There was no reason why the people of Banta City and the surrounding cities didn't need it, but the people of the other parts of the Lampari Kingdom didn't need it. But Leaf was right. The reason why the Serene Chamber of Commerce sold their magic fans to other parts of the kingdom was indeed because of Sue suggestion. At the business union meeting, Sue had proven a fact to the chairman of the other companies. It was that the other companies' magic machine technology was too lacking compared to the new flyer. If they wanted to compete with the new flyer in terms of market share, it was almost impossible. So Sue proposed that because the new flyer didn't have enough sales channels, the other companies could rely on their mature sales channels to sell their magic fans to other parts of the kingdom, so they wouldn't need to worry about sales. Although the other chambers of commerce didn't express their stance on Sue's proposal at the time, Sue later learned that many chambers of commerce had done so. Moreover, according to the information he received, the results were very good. There were even several companies that after seeing the large demand for magic fans in other parts of the kingdom, they gave up the idea of leaving the magic machine market and began to focus on producing magic fans. There were 2 companies that even ordered 2 more production lines from the new flyer, sending them to 2 cities far away from Banta City to build new magic fan factories. It said that their sales were quite good right now. Thinking of this, Sue asked Leaf, "Since it's selling well, are you prepared to propose to Chairman Rank to invest more in producing magic fans?" Leaf looked around before coming in front of Sue and saying in a low voice, "Chairman Sue, your new flyer really isn't planning on selling your Shinfei brand magic fans outside this year, of course?" Sue nodded affirmatively. "Didn't I already express my stance at the conference last time? New Flyer doesn't have the power to sell all their products in the kingdom right now, so at least for this year, our Shinfei brand magic fans will only be sold in Banta City and the surrounding 3 cities. Of course, starting next year, we will try to open new sales channels because the people in Banta City and the surrounding cities have already bought them, so the market is saturated." Leaf looked at Sue for a while and seeing the sincerity on his face, he gave a slight nod. "All right, I understand. Chairman Sue, I think that our Serene Chamber of Commerce will have a chance to cooperate with your new flyer." Seeing that Leaf wanted to leave, Sue quickly stopped him and asked, "Let me ask you another question, where is the furthest you've gone this time?" Leaf looked at Sue in surprise. "We haven't gone that far, the furthest is Saffron City." "Saffron City?" Sue thought for a bit. "Saffron City?" Sue thought about it. That should be around 400 kilometers away from Banta City. 400 kilometers is already very far. Reeve shook his head with some emotion. Leaf shook his head with a sigh. "Because we were afraid of damaging the goods, we spent an entire week just on this trip. If it wasn't for the magic fans selling quickly, we wouldn't have been able to come back today." Sue's eyes fell onto the wheel of the horse carriage. He saw that the outer layer of iron on the wooden wheel was already worn out, so it could be seen that their trip was quite hard. Seeing Sue-yi look at the wheel, Vice Chairman Leaf suddenly said in an emotional voice, "Chairman Sue, when your new flyer insisted on building a road from Banta City to the Falling Rain Valley, I thought that you must have gone crazy. You had too much money and nowhere to spend it. But after going out on this trip, I found that what you said was called. What was it again? To be rich, one has to build roads first." Sue-yi said. Right, one has to build roads first. These words are just too correct. If all the roads in our Lampari kingdom were roads, not only would we not need to worry about damaging our goods, our horse carriages would be able to go even faster. If we kept going on the roads, it would take us less than 3 days to finish the 400 kilometers. Like this, we can save a week, which is enough for me to make another trip. Sue-yi said with a faint smile, of course. Transportation was a fundamental problem to promote commercial development, so it was true that the saying, "build roads first," was true. You should pass by Saltan City on your way back, so you should have seen the road that the Fursan Carriage Company is building between Saltan City and Banta City, right? Leaf nodded. I saw it. I thought that the road was also built by your new flyer, but after asking around in the city, I found that it was built by the Fursan Carriage Company. Right, actually building roads is the most helpful thing for us merchants. When you see Chairman Rank later, help me remind him. If he doesn't make up his mind, he might not have a chance soon. Leaf looked at Sue-yi in confusion, but he tactfully didn't ask anything as he nodded in response. Sue-yi moved aside and Leaf saw that Sue-yi didn't have anything else to say, so he bid farewell to Sue-yi before driving the horse carriage away. Watching the horse carriage disappear around the corner, Sue-yi finally looked away from the horse carriage. After thinking about it, he didn't head home and went in the opposite direction. 10 minutes later, Sue-yi appeared in the Fursan Carriage Company's headquarters in the city. As expected, at this time, the Fursan Carriage Company's chairman Pompey was in his room in the headquarters, enjoying a rare moment of leisure. Hearing that Sue-yi was here, he quickly had someone invite him in. "Chairman Sue, you actually graced us with your presence. This really has pleasantly surprised me." Chairman Pompey laughed as he led Sue-yi to a special chair made of fragrant grass to sit down. He also poured him a cup of green firefly nectar that cost 38 gold coins per liter. Sue-yi looked around the room before looking at the cup of firefly nectar in his hand. He couldn't help saying with a smile, "I've already heard that Chairman Pompey's life is incomparably luxurious, but seeing it today, I've found that whether it is the descriptions of others or my imagination, they are all far from what I imagined." Chairman Pompey laughed before waving his hand. "Chairman Sue, it's fine if normal people say this, but you are the chairman of the most profitable company in our Banta City. If you say this, it's simply slapping my face. As long as you're willing, you can live a life 10 times more luxurious than this without any pressure." Sue-yi revealed a faint smile, not planning on discussing luxurious or not. After taking a sip of the refreshing firefly nectar, he asked Chairman Pompey about the Fursan Carriage Company's road construction. "It's very smooth overall. Although there are some small problems in the middle, it isn't much." Mentioning the two of them, or rather the common topic between the two companies, Chairman Pompey's tone was very relaxed. "According to Chairman Cruz's estimates, the road will be finished in around 3 months, just before the winter turns cold. What about yours?" "It's about the same," Sue-yi replied. "The road our companies are building is much wider than the Falling Rain Road, so it's normal for it to take a bit longer. Not to mention that Chairman Cruz has been complaining to me that we don't have enough manpower, so their company can't work at full strength." Chairman Pompey gave a helpless sigh. "Not only is he complaining, I'm also complaining. There are many people from other cities coming to our Banta City, so with people coming and going, our Fursan Carriage Company has to receive twice as many customers as before. I'm also worried about the problem of not having enough people. Receiving more customers means that your business is better, so isn't this something that you should be happy about? Sui said with a smile. I'm happy, but I'm also worried. Do you think we should suggest to the Lord City Lord to have him ask His Majesty to move some people from the other cities? Sui shook his head to deny this. Even if it's His Majesty, he can't casually order the citizens of the kingdom to move. Not to mention that there are many people in the territory of the nobles, so His Majesty doesn't have this power. If we want to solve the problem of manpower, the best method is to advertise. As long as everyone in the kingdom knows that our Banta city needs a large amount of people and the wages aren't low, I don't think there's a need to force them, and there will be many people running to our Banta city. Chairman Pompey thought about it and couldn't help nodding. This should be a bit better. Everyone wants to earn more money, and knowing that our Banta city has many opportunities to earn money, there will definitely be many people running here. Then he revealed a bitter look. But with a bitter look, he said, but with more people coming, there will be more customers we need to receive. Where can I find all those people in this short period of time? That's your own problem. Sui gave a shrug. After pausing, he said, but Chairman Pompey, have you ever thought of changing this problem yourself? Chairman Pompey looked at Sui and asked in a doubtful voice, how can I change it myself? For example, your horse carriages take 2 days to travel from Banta City to Anvil City, but if you could shorten this time to a single day, what do you think would happen? Chapter 199. 2 days to 1 day? Chairman Pompey was surprised before shaking his head. How is that possible? If you want to shorten it to a day and a half, I'll have my subordinates work a bit harder and buy some better horses, perhaps that would be possible. But to shorten it to a day. Unless there's a road connecting Banta City and Anvil City. Don't think about it for now. Sui shook his head. Chairman Pompey shook his head. The road our two families are building is just an experiment His Majesty is doing. Only when these 2 roads are finished and His Majesty feels that the effects are good, will he start building roads throughout the kingdom. As for building a road connecting Banta City and Anvil City, who knows how long that will take? Chairman Pompey nodded in a dejected manner. That's right. If all the places in our Lampari kingdom were connected by roads, our horse carriage business would be much better. This is the second time I've heard someone being this emotional today. Sui revealed a faint smile. Relax, as long as more and more people experience the benefits of roads, I believe that all the roads in the Lampari kingdom will become flat roads sooner or later. I also believe that, but the problem is how long will it take? I can't wait that long right now. Chairman Pompey gave a sigh before looking at Sui. Chairman Su, you shouldn't be talking about roads when you talk about improving ourselves, right? Right, I'm talking about something more realistic, which is the horse carriages your horse carriage company uses. Sui said. Horse carriages? Chairman Pompey thought about it before knitting his brows. What is there to improve with horse carriages? Other than changing to better horses, is there any other way? The problem is that better horses cost more and feed is more expensive. I can't afford it. Although horses can be replaced by other things, it can't be replaced for now. I came looking for you this time to talk about the problem of carriages. President Pompey was even more puzzled. Chairman Pompey was even more confused. How can carriages be improved? Of course. Sui nodded in a certain manner. I saw the Serene Chamber of Commerce's motorcade on the road, and after looking around, I found that the carriages they used were all made of wood, right? Of course, the carriages of our horse carriage company, whether it is transporting people or goods, they are all made of wood. Is there a problem with that? Could it be that you don't feel that a carriage made of wood isn't very good and easily breaks? Sui asked. Of course I'm clear on this, but it can't all be made of iron, right? I once tried to make a carriage out of iron, but the problem was that not only was an iron carriage extremely heavy, even 2 horses wouldn't be able to pull it, but the cost was also too high. Last time I tried to make a carriage that could hold 4 people, it cost me close to 200 gold coins. How do you think I can afford such a cost? You should know that the wooden carriages we use now only cost less than 20 gold coins to make. Sui couldn't help smiling. A horse carriage made of iron? Only President Pompey could think of something like this. I didn't say that it's all made of iron. Of course not. What I mean is that for a carriage, the most worn-out and easily broken parts aren't the body of the carriage, but the wheels and rollers, right? That's right, that's indeed the case. Chairman Pompey nodded. But I've also tried. If the rollers and wheels were made of iron, they would still be much heavier and would be more easily deformed than wood. Plus, the cost is several times that of wooden wheels, so I gave up in the end. The cost is several times that of wooden wheels. Sui was a bit puzzled. That's not right. In my opinion, iron should be cheaper. Suitable wood that can be used to make wheels and rollers should be much more expensive than iron, right? Chairman Su, this is what you don't understand. Although the material of iron is much cheaper than wood, the wages of a blacksmith to make the same wheels and rollers are much more expensive than that of a carpenter. If you calculate it, iron wheels are several times more expensive. Chairman Pompey replied helplessly. Pa Sui suddenly clapped his hands and said with a smile, "That's it." Chairman Pompey looked at Sui in confusion. "What do you mean?" Sui laughed. "Chairman Pompey, if I told you that I could sell you iron rollers and wheels for a cheaper price than wooden ones, would you be interested? Are you joking?" Chairman Pompey curled his lips. "How could iron be easier?" He suddenly stopped and looked at Sui with wide eyes. "Right, isn't this what your new flyer does? I really am stupid, I actually forgot about this. Chairman Su, can you really provide cheaper iron rollers and wheels? Of course, I can also add in something better called tires." Sui replied with a smile. ####. When they left the Fersen Carriage Company, it was already close to night. When Sui came home, the curtain of night had already fallen. When he came in, there was a figure that appeared in front of him as Agnes suddenly appeared in front of him. "Sir Chairman, you're finally back," Agnes excitedly called out. She grabbed Sui's hand and pulled him in. Sui was a bit surprised. "Agnes, you seem very happy today." "Because tonight's dinner was made by Agnes." Steele's voice came from inside the room. When she saw Agnes pulling Sui's hand in, Steele's expression changed slightly. She stood up and silently took Sui's hand from Agnes before saying with a smile, "You weren't back in this long, the food is about to get cold." Sui looked at Vivian on the side in surprise before looking at Steele. "Didn't you say that the two of you would be cooking tonight? Why did it change to Agnes?" Steele gave a shrug. "You have to ask Agnes about this. She saw that Vivian and I were preparing to cook, and without knowing what happened, she suddenly said that she wanted to cook this meal. She wouldn't listen to us no matter what we said." Sui looked at Agnes with a strange gaze. "Agnes, did something happy happen to you today?" Agnes shook her head. "No. But when I saw Steele and Vivian start cooking, I suddenly thought of something. I've been here for this long, but I've always been eating Vivian's cooking. According to what Sir Chairman told me last time about reciprocity between humans, I should also cook a meal for you as a return gift. Am I right, Sir Chairman?" Sui couldn't help laughing. "Although it's not completely correct, it's not wrong either." "Very good, Vivian, you're already learning more and more about the rules of us humans. I believe that you'll soon be like Elder Elucia wants you to be and truly integrate into our human lives," Agnes said in a somewhat vexed voice. "But every time I go out, there will be many people pointing at me, and there will even be quite a few people coming to watch. There's no other way. Who told them to not be used to your existence yet?" Sui patted Vivian's shoulder with a smile. Relax, humans get used to new things very quickly. I believe that not long after, everyone will be used to the existence of you elves. You see, now that your 100 compatriots are here, when they show up more in the city, everyone will gradually get used to this situation, and they won't crowd around and point at you anymore. Agnes thought for a bit before nodding. I hope it's like this. All right, Sir Chairman, you're finally back, so let's quickly eat. I don't know what your human eating habits are, but Steele and Vivian both said that the food won't taste good if it gets cold, so we should eat before it gets cold. Hearing Agnes say that she didn't understand the human eating habits, Su Yi's heart skipped a beat. Last time when they went to the Night Song tribe, Elder Elucia had only treated the three of them to some simple fruits and water. This made Su Yi silently criticize the elven eating habits at that time. Now that Agnes had emphasized this point, then what kind of food would her cooking be like? Seeing Agnes open the cover on the table, Su Yi took a deep breath and looked over. With just a single look, Su Yi almost couldn't help letting out a pitiful cry. The 3 plates and the soup on the table were all black, and he couldn't even see their original appearance. If these things wanted Su Yi to recognize them as normal food, it really was forcing him. Seeing Agnes with a bright smile, Su Yi asked Steele and Vivian in a daze, "Hey, were these dishes made by Agnes alone? You two didn't help on the side." Because Agnes said that letting others help wouldn't show her sincerity, so she chased the 2 of us out. Steele casually replied. After looking at Su Yi, she pursed her lips into a smile. "Dear Sir Chairman, Agnes said that since she came to our human world, you've helped her the most. She personally made this meal to thank you, so you can't disappoint Agnes' kind intentions." "That's right, Sir Chairman, in order to express my gratitude to you, I made this meal all by myself. Do you think it's good?" Agnes looked at Su Yi with an expectant look. Seeing the happy expression on Agnes' face, and seeing the smile on Steele's face and the worry on Vivian's little face, Su Yi gave a long sigh in his heart. On the surface, he revealed a bright smile and said to Agnes, "All right, let me try it." After saying this, he gritted his teeth and revealed a righteous appearance. He swallowed the food Agnes brought to his mouth in large bites. Instantly, countless strange tastes exploded in his mouth. Su Yi felt like he was in a strange environment and the surrounding air became colorful. But at this time, Agnes' voice sounded in his ears. "Sir Chairman, is it good?" After a while, Su Yi slowly spat out 2 words with difficulty. "It's good." Chapter 200. Chairman, why is your expression so ugly? Enkato looked at Su Yi with a curious look and asked in a worried voice, "Did you not sleep well last night?" Su Yi rubbed his stomach. He had gone to the bathroom 17 times last night. It would be strange if he slept well. "It's nothing, I just felt a bit uncomfortable, it's nothing." Su Yi waved his hand and stopped Enkato from asking more. "Let's talk business. Enkto, the few factories in Falling Rain Valley are about to be completed. Therefore, after a period of time, I will be preparing to move a portion of the factories here to Falling Rain Valley. This includes the Household Magic Machine Workshop. You are the supervisor of this workshop, do you have any opinions?" Enkato thought for a bit before replying, "Chairman, I feel that if you want to move, it's best to wait until the summer is over. Right now the magic fans, magic air conditioners, and magic freezers are all selling like hotcakes, so we have a lot of orders. If we move now, it will definitely affect production, and I'm afraid we won't be able to complete the orders." I'm also thinking the same thing. So the first batch to move over are the automatic magic rice cookers, magic bread makers, magic lamps, and other production lines that aren't that busy right now. As for what you said, we'll consider it at the end of next month. Su Yi said. "Will the workers also be moving over?" Enkato asked. "Of course. The production magic machines are secondary, the workers are the most important," Su Yi said with a nod. Other than that, the factory in the Falling Rain Valley is much bigger than here, so we need to recruit a group of workers. When you have nothing to do, talk to the workers in the workshop and ask them if they have any relatives or friends who are willing to work for our new flyer. As long as they are qualified, we'll take them all. Ankto revealed a look of joy. That's great. Chairman, I wanted to mention this to you for a long time. There are many workers in the workshop who have asked me this, saying that they have relatives or friends who have heard that our company gives high wages and good benefits, so they all want to work for us. But you never mentioned that you wanted to hire another worker, so I didn't agree. Now that you've said so, I'll go and tell the workers. They'll be happy. Sue-Yi was a bit surprised. There are jobs all over Banta City and the wages aren't lower than ours, so why do they still want to work for our company? And Kato chuckled and replied proudly, of course our place is better. You see, President, other than the high wages of our new flyer, we also give our workers some benefits when we're free. For example, you gave each of us a bucket of ice cream. After I brought it home, both my wife and children loved it. They finished it on the same day and even asked me if I had more. Sui couldn't help laughing. He was just giving out some ice cream to test the performance of the magic refrigerator, but it was actually considered a good benefit. Apart from these, there's another very important reason, which is that the work in our factory is easy. And Kato pointed at the busy workers in the workshop and said, look, the work the workers do is just moving their hands, it doesn't take any effort at all. This kind of simple and easy work, other than our new flyer, where else can you find it? Su-Yi's expression was a bit strange. For the household magic machine workshop, this kind of mechanical work was considered repetitive by countless people on Earth, making people tired. But now in Signs, it was the simplest and easiest work. But thinking of the situation at the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce construction site last time, Su-Yi understood. Compared to that kind of work that almost killed people, the work in New Flyer was indeed much easier. Su-Yi looked around the workshop and he couldn't help looking at the elves working hard on the assembly team. These 100 elves were of course from the Nightsong tribe. The reason why they left the Falling Rain Forest and came to the New Flyer to work as normal workers was because Elder Elucia had seen how sloppy her clansmen were when they were making the outer shell of the magic fan. So she followed Su-Yi's request and gave these clansmen to Su-Yi to have him train them. As for the so-called special training, it was actually very simple. Su-Yi didn't say anything else and directly threw the 100 elves into the household magic machine workshop. Then he had them do the most boring and repetitive assembly work. It had already been half a month since they started working in the New Flyer. Even if Su-Yi had seen this scene many times, every time he saw the noble, mysterious, and elegant elves working like normal workers in a factory on Earth, doing simple mechanical work, Su-Yi felt a bit awkward. How are the elves doing now? Su-Yi asked. They've improved quite a bit. And Kato gave a nod of praise. In the beginning, they were indeed like what you said, President. They were very undisciplined and undisciplined. But since you scolded them last time, they've become much better. Hearing Enkato mention the matter of him scolding the elves last time, Sui couldn't help rubbing his face as he revealed a bitter smile. A week ago, there was a small conflict in the household magic machine workshop. This conflict was between the elven and human workers. Because the elves were sloppy, there were many problems with the finished products they assembled. It caused the human workers who were responsible for inspecting the boxes to have to work even harder. After a long time, the conflict between both sides accumulated and finally exploded. Although the human workers were a bit respectful of the elves in the beginning because of how mysterious they were, after being together for a long time, there was no mystery to them at all. Because of the elves, their workload increased and it affected the efficiency of the workshop, so naturally the human workers were dissatisfied. Finally, after finding a mistake, there was a human worker who couldn't help taunting the elves. The elves had always been very proud, so how could they take the taunts of the human workers? The conflict between both sides instantly escalated. If it wasn't for Sue coming in time, the new flyer factory might have had its first conflict, and it would have been a conflict between two different races. When Sue arrived and learned the whole story, he fiercely scolded both sides that were causing trouble. Sue was the new flyer's chairman, so he had a high position in the minds of the workers. After being scolded by him, the human workers could only accept it and didn't dare resist at all. But these elves had never been scolded so harshly before, let alone by a human. Even though Elder Elucia had strictly ordered them to listen to Suyi's arrangements before they left the Night Song tribe, these elves still couldn't take it and refuted Suyi. But Suyi's simple words made them speechless. Everyone is doing the same job, but the human workers finish it faster and better than you. What right do you have to look down on them? What right do you have to yell in front of me? Is the pride of the elves that you're making a scene here when you're in the wrong? Since that conflict, the 100 elves changed their sloppy work style. They started to be like the human workers, concentrating on their work and strictly following the rules and regulations. And once they started to be serious, the elves' pursuit of perfection and personality was revealed. The work they completed was even more beautiful than the human workers. Although this is a good thing, it isn't good to have these elven workers and us human workers always oppose each other. If it continues like this, it will go against Elder Elucia's intentions. Sue thought for a bit before saying to Enkato, "Pay more attention in the future and try to minimize this conflict. For example, find some time to hold a banquet or something, let the elven workers and human workers interact and understand each other more." Enkato nodded in response. After saying this, Sue finally talked about the business this time. According to the plan, our company will be setting up a new tire factory after a while. This tire factory will be divided into bearing manufacturing, tire steel casting, and tire manufacturing, so it will be divided into 3 to 5 workshops. Tire? Enkato was a bit confused. What is that? You don't need to understand what it is right now. What I need you to do is to pick out a portion of the current workers who are familiar with the magic lathes and magic punch presses. I need these workers to develop and make the first batch of tires. In the future, this tire factory will be built on them. Sue said. All right. When will it be needed? Enkato asked. If nothing unexpected happens, we'll need it at the end of this month. Other than that, there will also be a portion of the elven workers. Pick out some elven workers with good discipline from among them. They are indispensable in the production of the outer shell. Enkato nodded to show he understood. Sue said a few more things before leaving the Household Magic Machine Workshop and heading to the Magic Machine Development Workshop. Compared to the Household Magic Machine Workshop that only worked on the magic machines developed by the company, the Magic Machine Development Workshop had always been the most important research for the new flyer. It was even more important than the Academy of Magic, so it was the place that Sue placed the most importance on. Naturally, he gave the best treatment to Camby, Bordeaux, and the other dwarves in charge of the research. Not mentioning Camby because of Bordeaux's talent, he had played an important role in the recent months of research. Sue had already increased his wage from 15 gold coins to 25 gold coins a month. But Sue still felt that this wage was still very low. If the other companies knew of Bordeaux's importance to the new flyer, they would be very willing to pay him twice the wage of 25 gold coins. It had to be known, on Earth, a high-level researcher who was this important to a large company would earn at least 1,000,000 gold coins a year. According to the purchasing power of signs, that was equal to 10,000 gold coins. The average monthly wage was close to 1,000 gold coins. Chapter 201. Walking into the Magic Machine Development Workshop, he wasn't surprised to see Bordeaux and the other dwarves gathered together, talking about something around a strange-looking machine. Sue came over to listen and found that they were currently studying the kinetic energy parameters of the magic punch press. According to Sue's initial design, the kinetic energy of the magic punch press came from the 4th grade fire spell, the explosion array. It used the powerful impact of the explosion array to drive the module to complete the punch. In the beginning, there wasn't a problem with this design. But after using it for a while, the dwarves gradually found that the punching force of the magic punch press wasn't enough. Moreover, the explosion array took a long time between each explosion and recovery, which seriously limited the efficiency of the punch. As the new flyer received more and more orders, the tasks became heavier and heavier, so the efficiency of the magic punch press became a bit lacking. Although they could rely on making several magic punch presses to solve this problem, they would need more workers to operate the magic punch press, which would indirectly increase the cost. So while the dwarves led by Camby were researching the new magic punch press, they didn't stop improving the old magic punch press. As for the improvements to the magic punch press, Sue had already given them the blueprint for a new type of mechanical punch press. But because Sue only knew about the mechanical punch press from Earth, he had to change the structure if he changed it to a magic array, so he had to rely on Camby and the other dwarves to research the structure. Now Bordeaux and the others were studying the kinetic energy parameters of the old magic punch press. They wanted to determine the specifications of the old magic punch press and then design the mechanical energy of the magic punch press based on this. This was work that required precise calculations. The dwarves didn't have this habit before, but after working at the new flyer for a long time and being influenced by Sue, they developed this habit. Seeing Sue come in, Bordeaux and the others stopped their discussion and gave some of the parameters and calculations to Sue to see. Although Sue had reduced his participation in the development process as much as possible, whether it was the dwarves of the Magic Machine Development Workshop or Evita and the other magicians of the Academy of Magic, he was the best magic mechanical engineer in their hearts. Sue carefully read the research notes of several dwarves, pointed out several misconceptions, and gave them a little explanation of the design direction. Then he did not say much. The reason why he gradually reduced his participation was to nurture the dwarves and Evita's own research awareness and knowledge accumulation. After Sue finished his discussion with Bordeaux and the others, Canby, who had been waiting by the side, immediately asked, "Chairman, are you here today because you have a new research mission for us to complete?" Hearing Canby's question, the other dwarves' spirits were shaken as they gazed at Sue with sparkling eyes. Sue couldn't help but smile, thinking that these dwarves were all workaholic. "Right, there is a new mission this time, and it's a very difficult mission. Do you want to take it?" Sue asked with a smile. Canby pursed his lips and replied, "Guild leader, are you asking nonsense? We like difficult missions the most. Speak, what is it?" "Alright. There are a total of 2 missions. The first one is relatively simple." Sue took out 2 blueprints and opened the first one. "Yesterday, I promised the Fersen Carriage Company's chairman Pompey that I would design a kind of tire for him to replace the wheels under the horse carriages. Take a look, this is the blueprint." The dwarves came over to take a look. Bordeaux said in a surprised voice, "Chairman, this tire structure is this simple. What do you need us to design? We just need to make some changes to the existing production magic machines." So I said the first mission is relatively simple. Sue opened the second blueprint. As for the second mission, it's much harder. The dwarves looked down at the blueprint again and they all knit their brows. The second blueprint had a very strange-looking thing drawn on it. It was in the shape of a rectangle, and there were various belts connected to it, as well as a series of complicated mechanical models that dazzled people. With just a single look, the dwarves were certain that this thing was very troublesome. "Chairman, what is this?" Bordeaux couldn't help asking. Sue laughed. "This thing is very powerful. If you can develop it, I dare guarantee that there will be a large change in signs." Kanbai curled his lips in disdain. Chairman, I've heard you say this countless times. Every time you have us develop a new thing, you always say this. Then do you admit that I'm telling the truth? Sui said with a smile. Kanbai was stunned. He looked at the other dwarves and found that he couldn't refute Sui. The current new flyer, wasn't it changing Banta City and the surrounding cities with new products one after another? In the future, it would affect all signs and change all signs. This was something that could be foreseen. The thing I'm having you study this time is even more powerful than the one I had you study before. It can change the continent even more. Sui laughed. Because it has a very powerful name, it's called an engine. ####. Researching an engine was actually a very difficult matter even on Earth. This was because the engine had high requirements in all aspects. Not only did it need a high foundation in mechanical engineering, it also needed a strong foundation in materials. Not a single one could be missing. But the engine was just a general term. If it was divided into car engines, ship engines, airplane engines, space engines, and etc. in this weak industrial base and even weaker science and technology in signs, Sui naturally couldn't hope to reach the goal in one step and directly develop a space engine. The design he gave to Kanbai and the other dwarves to study couldn't be considered an engine, it could only be considered a crude engine model. The engines on Earth were powered by various petroleum products. But in signs, Sui had never seen petroleum before and had never heard of petroleum before, so naturally he couldn't use the same engine design. Of course, without petroleum, that didn't mean he couldn't design an engine. Rather, because he wasn't limited to designing an internal combustion engine powered by petroleum, Sui could design an engine more easily. For example, the engines on Earth used petroleum as internal combustion, turning the blades to provide rotational force, and transmitting the power through the mechanism. The most important thing to consider in designing an engine was how to use the pressure from the combustion of petroleum, so it was very complicated to design. But in signs, because of the uniqueness of magic, Sui's design was much easier. In fact, he even had two completely different options. One of them was to imitate the engine design on Earth, using the explosive force of fire magic to replace the pressure from the combustion of petroleum to move the blades, providing power. To put it simply, it was using the magic of magic stones to replace petroleum and the fire magic array to replace the combustion of petroleum. It should be said that with Sui's rich mechanical knowledge, this choice was much easier to design. Sui only needed to change the internal combustion engine design to a suitable magic array to solve this problem. As for the other choice, it was like the magic fan, using the power of wind magic to move the blade. The advantage of this design was that Sui could directly use the wind magic array to move the axle, simplifying the complicated design of the engine. The disadvantage was that compared to the fire magic array, the wind magic array was a bit weaker in terms of explosive force and impact. For example, the 4th grade bursting flame spell used on the magic punch press. If he used wind magic to achieve the same effect, it would need to be at least a 6th grade wind magic array or above. In short, the design of the fire magic array had a ready-made example, so it provided more power. The wind magic array was simpler and easier to design, but the power it provided was a bit weaker. What Sui gave Kanbai and the other dwarves to study was the design for the latter wind magic engine. Signs didn't have the foundation for this research, so to succeed in this research, it was better to start as simple as possible. Moreover, Sui didn't have much confidence in the design of the fire magic engine. After all, he wasn't a specialist in engine research, so he didn't understand the details. This kind of research could bring some dangers, so Sui didn't want these precious dwarves to meet with any accident. He decided to wait until the wind magic engine had a certain foundation and the dwarves had enough experience before considering the fire magic engine. When he met Chairman Pompey, Su-yi had said that the horse in the horse carriage could be replaced, which was the engine. In the history of Earth, it was the appearance of the engine that gradually replaced the horse carriage and sealed the horse carriage in history. Now in signs, because of Su-yi's appearance and the strong discomfort he felt from riding in the horse carriage, the engine would appear ahead of time and the horse carriage would leave the stage of history ahead of time. Su-yi wanted to research tires and engines. His goal was to get rid of the discomfort of riding in the horse carriage and return to the comfort of riding in a small car on Earth. But to truly solve this problem, there was still a very important problem that needed to be solved. Su-yi left the magic machine development workshop and drove the horse carriage that he hated, heading to Great Magician Camilla's magic tower. Chapter 202. Recently, New Flyer had been developing more and more products, so naturally there was more and more demand for magic arrays. Even if the number of researchers in the Academy of Magic had increased, Evita's classmates had the same level of magic as Evita and Akali, so they couldn't satisfy the needs of New Flyer's research. So compared to before, the Carmilla Magic Tower had taken on more research. Correspondingly, Great Magician Camilla's research funds from New Flyer had greatly increased. In this half a year, Su-yi had already given Carmilla Magic Tower over 3,000 gold coins in research funds. Just based on this, it had already surpassed the Magic Tower's income for an entire year. Great Magician Camilla, who had enough money, finally realized the benefits of having money. He also found a very important problem, which was that when he worked with the Frestek Chamber of Commerce to develop magic machines, he spent most of his time studying magic arrays, which was still in the category of magic research. Not only did this not delay his most important magic research, because of Su-yi's special requirements for magic arrays, Great Magician Camilla gained many new understandings of magic when he was studying magic arrays. It made Great Magician Camilla's level of magic increase that couldn't be ignored. With money and increasing his magic level, Great Magician Camilla no longer resisted participating in New Flyer's research, rather he became more and more enthusiastic. Every time he saw Su-yi, he would take the initiative to ask him, "Hey, brat, what new research do you have this time?" As long as one was in contact with Su-yi for a long time, they would unknowingly learn a few new terms from Su-yi. Great Magician Camilla was not an exception. Su-yi shook his head, "Not yet. But Your Excellency Great Magician, I want to ask, has there been any progress on the miniaturization of magic arrays I asked you to research last time? Our company needs this technology very much right now. If we can research it, we can use it on many magic machines." Great Magician Camilla knit his brows. "There is progress, but I'm afraid it won't reach the result you want." Su-yi was shocked. "There's progress? It's good that there's progress. Come, Your Excellency Great Magician, tell me what kind of progress you've made." "Actually, there isn't much progress. I've just tried to miniaturize a few magic arrays and there are a few that have succeeded. The smallest one is less than 10 centimeters in diameter and the largest is less than 20 centimeters. But it's less than a centimeter." Great Magician Camilla knit his brows. "Su-yi, this is. You're a magician yourself, so you might have a better understanding of magic arrays than I do. You should know very well that setting up a magic array has very high requirement. Even if there is a deviation in the array, it can affect the final magic array as a magic array. Not to mention, the smaller the magic array, the more intense the mana fluctuations between the array lines will be when it is activated. Maintaining a magic array is already very difficult, not to mention, you want a magic array to have the same effect as a large-scale magic array. This is simply impossible," Su-yi said with a laugh. "If there wasn't any difficulty, how could Your Excellency Great Magician personally make a move? If it wasn't a powerful magician like you, I wouldn't dare let anyone else study it." Great Magician Camilla snappily looked at Su-yi. "There's no use flattering me. This research is too difficult and I don't know how long it would take for me to finish it alone. Didn't you have a cooperation agreement with great magician Eisenkel last time? If you need it urgently, why don't you have him join in the research? Not only is he a great magician with the same level of magic as me, he also has more connections than me and knows many powerful magicians. With him joining, I feel that the research will progress much faster. Great magician Eisenkel. Sui hesitated a bit, but he didn't say the worries in his heart. Instead, he asked, speaking of him, I suddenly thought of something. When he came last time, didn't he say that the Sorcerers Guild was discussing the problem of magic patents? Now that it's been this long, there should be a result, right? Great magician Camilla gave a cold snort. It's a pity that the efficiency of those old men in the guild is much lower than you can imagine. They've already discussed it for several months and there still hasn't been a result. It really makes people unable to keep watching. But the good news is that in the latest issue of the guild, they have already begun discussing the details of the magic patent. Based on this trend, the guild should have decided to pass this decision in the end. As for when it will be passed, I don't know. It's good that it's passed. Like this, I can be more assured in my research and won't have to worry about other people taking away the hard-earned research result. Sui said with a satisfied nod. Great magician Camilla looked at Sui and suddenly asked, Brat, when you say other people, does that include great magician Eisenkel? Sui laughed and didn't deny it. Great magician Camilla gave a sigh and said with a look of regret, actually I've always agreed with the guild's point of view. Magic research should be shared with everyone. If every magician could do this, the magic level of our signs wouldn't have regressed. It would be far worse than it was during the race wars thousands of years ago. Sui immediately shook his head. Your Excellency Great Magician, this idea is just wishful thinking on your part, it doesn't have any practical value. The Sorcerers Guild can use this as a slogan because that is what the organization needs, but it is impossible for every magician to be this selfless. Great magician Camilla slowly nodded in a somewhat unwilling manner. Actually, I also understand this, but I wasn't willing to admit it before. Now that I've seen the development of your new flyer, I've suddenly found that what you said before was right. People are selfish, and if there are no benefits to themselves, they won't have the motivation to work hard. Look, your new flyer's magic machines can bring benefits to many people, so not only Banta City, even the people of the surrounding cities are working hard to participate in this. I think that not long after, the entire Lampari Kingdom will participate. When that time comes, there will be even more magicians studying magic machines. I believe that the magic array miniaturization technology you need will be easily researched. Sui shook his head. According to normal reasoning, this is correct. But first, I'm not willing to wait that long. Second, if it isn't developed by our new flyer, it has a completely different meaning to me. So, Your Excellency Great Magician, I ask you to work hard. Great Magician Camilla said with a bitter smile. I'm not a great magus, and even a great magus wouldn't be able to solve the miniaturization problem that easily. Sui was silent for a bit before taking out a blueprint from his chest. If you can't solve all the problems, then I ask you to solve the miniaturization of this magic array first. Great Magician Camilla looked over the blueprint and his brows jumped up as he said in a surprised voice, This is an 8th grade wind spell, the hurricane spell. You actually want to use such a powerful spell on a magic machine? What kind of terrifying magic machine are you preparing to make? Sui shook his head with a smile. It isn't as terrifying as you think. But this new magic machine requires a lot of power, so even with the hurricane spell, I don't think it's enough. But we've just started studying it, so we can't use such a powerful spell right away, right? Your Excellency Great Magician, can you limit the magic array to a diameter of no more than 5 centimeters? 5 centimeters? Great Magician Camilla looked at the blueprint and thought for a bit before nodding. It should be fine if it was 5 centimeters, But the hurricane spell is a large-scale spell, so if it's limited to such a small magic array, its power will decrease. No matter how much I study it, I can't guarantee its original power. It's enough to use as long as it can maintain half its power. Sui nodded. Not to mention that I'm prepared to use the gradient magic input technique to limit the power of this magic array. Alright, since it's like this, there's no problem. Great Magician Camilla thought for a bit. Give me a month. Give me a month's time. Since I have the experience from my previous research, it shouldn't be too much of a problem for me to focus on this spell. Only a month? Sui was pleasantly surprised, and he couldn't help saying with a smile, "Your Excellency, Great Magician, really is powerful, far surpassing my imagination. My respect for you is as endless as the waters of the sandy river, and also as—" "Alright, stop flattering me." Great Magician Camilla snappily cut off Sui. "If you have that much free time, you might as well spend it with Steel. That girl complained to me last night that you were too busy with work and didn't have much time to spend with her." Sui was stunned. Steel really said this? Great Magician Camilla glared at him. "Could it be that I'm lying to you? I'm warning you, kid. Our Steel finally fell in love with you. That is your good luck. If you don't cherish it and let her be cheated by other fellows, I won't forgive you." Sui scratched his head. "Your Excellency, Great Magician, why does it sound like you're praising Steel? Or are you affirming me?" Great Magician Camilla angrily glared at Sui. "Why do you care so much? I'm telling you to spend more time with Steel. Just listen to me." With a paw sound, Sui straightened his legs and gave Great Magician Camilla a military salute from Earth. "Reporting to Your Excellency, Great Magician, I promise to complete this task." Great Magician Camilla wanted to glare at Sui again, but he couldn't help laughing at Sui's strange actions. In the end, he waved his hand and signaled for Sui to scram. So Sui giggled and left Great Magician Camilla's private laboratory, heading to the bottom of the magic tower to find Steel. Chapter 203. Wella sat on the chair blankly, expressionlessly looking at her aunt who was talking eloquently to her. "Baron Stanley's son is quite good-looking and his personality is quite good. I've heard people who know him say that he doesn't like to fool around outside like the other sons of nobles in the city. He has always honestly stayed at home, helping Baron Stanley manage his family's affairs. Listen to me, although Baron Stanley isn't the biggest noble in our Banta city, the territory under his name isn't smaller than Viscount Leslie. Oh, it's Baron Belil's territory now. It's close to 20 hectares. If you marry him—" Wella couldn't help giving a sigh. This was the reason why she didn't like going home. She was a local of Banta City, and her parents lived in a small village less than 5 kilometers to the north of Banta City. Although her personality was very cold, she was a very filial girl. Even when she went to work in Sultan City, she would go home from time to time to be with her parent. But what she found hard to accept was that every time she went home, there would be elders from her relatives urging her to get married, which annoyed her to no end. Before her relationship with Rem changed, these people only urged her to confirm her relationship with Rem. It would be best if they directly got married. But after they learned that she had broken up with Rem, everyone immediately changed their target. They began introducing all kinds of men to her, urging her to get married as soon as possible. Could it be that I can't get married? There were times when Wella couldn't help angrily thinking. To be honest, she was already 25 years old this year. In signs, a 25-year-old girl who wasn't married was already quite late. Wella's classmates from school and the girls of the same age from the same village had all gotten married and even had children. She was the only one who hadn't gotten married yet. Her personality was rather cold to begin with, but because of Rem's pestering, he finally obtained her initial approval. But then they broke up, so it would be strange if her family wasn't worried about her. Knowing that her aunt had good intentions towards her and this was definitely her parents' idea, even if Wella wasn't willing, she could only honestly listen. However, when her aunt heard Wella's sigh, she misunderstood and asked in a surprised voice, "Wella, could it be that you're not satisfied with Baron Stanley's son? Let me tell you, he is already very good. No matter what, she was still a noble. If you weren't a magician, she probably wouldn't have taken a fancy to you. Now that he's willing to get in touch with you and meet you, why aren't you grabbing this opportunity? What are you waiting for? You're already 25 years old. In another 2 years, you won't be able to get married. You see, your younger brother is going to turn 20 this year. If you don't get married, your younger brother won't be able to get married. Don't tell me you want to delay your younger brother's lifelong happiness?" Listening to these clichés that she had heard no less than 100 times, Wella could only continue to remain silent. Baron Stanley's son? An honest, noble child? Humph! Wella didn't believe this nonsense. According to her aunt, Baron Stanley's son was 26 years old, but he wasn't married yet. According to Wella's understanding of these boys who came from noble families, this guy either hadn't played enough and didn't want to get married, or he simply didn't like women. For a 26-year-old man who was still unmarried, it would be strange if there was nothing wrong with him. But thinking about it, Wella suddenly remembered that Sue-E was about to turn 28 this year, but he wasn't married yet. In comparison, he seemed to have a bigger problem than Baron Stanley's son. Thinking of this, Wella's face couldn't help but reveal a smile. If Sue-E and Steele were to know her current thoughts, she didn't know how they would react. The next time I see Sue-E, shouldn't I remind him to propose to Steele? Anyway, looking at Steele's appearance, she seems to be dead set on Sue-E. Wella didn't realize that the thoughts in her mind were the same as her aunt's. They were both gossipy. After a while, perhaps her uncle finally couldn't stand his wife's nagging and found a reason to call her away, allowing Wella to finally relax. When she was about to get up and go out for a walk, a tall figure suddenly rushed to Wella's side. "Cousin Wella, can I ask you for a favor?" Wella slightly raised her head and looked at her cousin, who was half a head taller than her. She smiled and said, "What is it? Say it." Cousin Sauce turned his head and saw that his parents weren't far away. He pulled Wella out of the room and came to a remote corner, as he said in a low voice, "Cousin Wella, I've heard that your Fresteck Chamber of Commerce has been recruiting workers recently?" Wella was slightly surprised. She thought for a bit and then shook her head and replied, "I'm not too sure. But I heard the president mention before that the company is expanding and should be recruiting a large number of workers." "That's right," Cousin Sauce called out in an excited voice before saying in a mysterious voice, "I've heard others say that if an employee of the Fresteck Chamber of Commerce introduces you, you'll be given priority, right?" Wella looked at him and asked in surprise, "What? You want to work for our company?" "That's right. Cousin Wella, you are someone from the New Flyer and you are also a researcher from the Academy of Magic. Your position should be much higher than normal workers, right? Can you talk to Chairman Sue? If you can you help me talk to him and recruit me to work in your New Flyer factory?" Cousin Sauce asked with a face full of expectation. "Haven't you been living well at home? Why do you suddenly want to work in our company's factory?" Wella asked strangely. "Then again, there are so many companies in the city that are recruiting workers. You can go anywhere, why do you want to work in our company? It is very comfortable to play at home, but there is no money." Cousin Sauce scratched his head and awkwardly said with a smile, "My friends in the village have all gone to work in the large companies, and each month they can earn at least 10 gold coins. Every time they come back with their salary, they will bring back large and small bags of things. I can only look at them and it really makes people uncomfortable. So after thinking about it, I also want to work. Cousin Wella, can you help me just this once?" Wella looked at Cousin Sauce and found it a bit funny, but also a bit gratified. This cousin of hers was her aunt's sore point. Because he had been spoiled since he was young. He didn't want to work in the fields after he grew up and wasn't willing to do hard work. He just stayed at home all day doing nothing. Her aunt had complained to Wella's parents countless times about this, but she couldn't do a thing to him. Now that he had taken the initiative to work, if her aunt and uncle knew about this, they would definitely be very happy. I can help you, but have you really decided to work? Have you thought it through? Wella asked. Cousin Sauce gave a strong nod. I've thought it through. Cousin Wella, I've heard that normal workers in your new flyer factory can earn several gold coins a month. If I have money, I can buy 2 magic fans for my family or even a magic air conditioner. If I put it in my parents' room, they won't be so hot that they can't sleep at night. Wella's heart skipped a bit. Although Cousin Sauce was a bit naughty, he at least knew how to be filial to his parent. She couldn't help raising her hand to rub Cousin Sauce's head before saying with a nod, "All right, since you have this idea, I'll help you this time. But Cousin Sauce, although the work in our company's factory is easier than other companies, it will still be tiring, so you have to be prepared." Cousin Sauce gave a strong nod. "I know. Anyway, I've decided this time, I will work hard to earn money, otherwise I won't be able to raise my head in the village." After saying this, he said with an excited smile, "If I can work in New Flyer, I guarantee that they will envy me to death. I want to see if they dare laugh at me in the future." Wella revealed a faint smile. She was afraid that he didn't want to earn money, but since he had this idea, it was a very good change. Seeing Cousin Sauce leave with a look of joy, Wella couldn't help feeling a bit of respect for Sue-E in her heart. The reason why Cousin Sauce had this kind of change was because he had been stimulated by his fellow villagers who had earned money after working in the village. As for the deeper reason, it was because there were jobs all over Banta City, which allowed Cousin Sauce companions to find work. It had to be known, it wasn't that these people didn't want to work before, but there wasn't that much work in Banta City for them to do. These people could only be like Cousin Sauce, staying at home all day doing nothing. In the end, they would become normal farmers like their parents. But now that Banta City had changed, it had changed the fate of these people, as well as her Cousin Sauce's thoughts and fate. As for why there were such large changes in Banta City, it was clearly because of the new flyer, or rather it was because of Sue-E. If it was said that Wella was only praising Sue-Ye's talent in magic machines before, now she suddenly found that the magic machines Sue-E invented didn't just bring convenience to people's lives, but rather it brought a profound change. It seems like Sue-E wasn't exaggerating. Things like magic machines can bring a large change to this world that no one can imagine. After Wella thought about it, she saw that there was still some time before dinner, so she walked out of the village. She didn't want to continue enduring her aunt's enthusiasm when she returned home, so it was good to take a break before dinner. Walking to the familiar small river outside the village, Wella found that after not coming back for half a month, there was actually a large factory building by the river that she didn't know when. Looking over it, Wella wasn't that surprised. Because of the new flyer's small company support plan, there were many small factories that appeared all over Banta City. Just as she was about to go inside to see if the magic machinery was being produced, Wella saw 2 figures coming out of the building from a distance. Wella was stunned because she instantly recognized the 2 familiar figures. One of them was actually Rem. Although she didn't immediately recognize the other one, Wella carefully looked him over and recognized that he was Simirat. Seeing the 2 of them walking together intimately, Wella's heart filled with a trace of anger. This fellow Rem, why is he with that bastard Simirat again? Chapter 204. A thought flashed through Wella's mind. She quickly crouched down and hid behind a small tree. The magic in her body moved and 2 small wind-gathering spells appeared in her ears. Then she could vaguely hear the conversation between Rem and Simirat. "Give me a bit more time." The first thing she heard was Rem's familiar voice. I have already gained their trust. Recently, Evita has also gradually handed over important research work to me. I even have a lot of important materials in my hands. As long as I have a bit more time, I will definitely be able to get New Flyer's most important research materials. Hearing the last sentence, Wella was suddenly startled. What did Rem want to do? He wanted to get New Flyer's most important research materials. Then what? Hearing his tone, it clearly wasn't a good thing. The problem is that I have already given you enough time. This time it was Simmerat's voice. Rem, you have been in New Flyer for almost 2 months, right? But in these 2 months you have done nothing. You haven't taken out anything useful. I can wait, but the one behind me can't. Do you know, that big shot has already urged me several times. I know. Rem's tone was a bit awkward. But Simmerat, you should also know that the research materials you want are the most important things to New Flyer. Of course they will guard it very strictly. After all, I have only been in the Research Institute for a short time. To be able to gain their trust and have the opportunity to get close to those materials is already very good. If you want to get it, you have to be a bit more patient. Simmerat was silent for a while and suddenly said, Rem, kid, don't tell me that after working in New Flyer for a while, you have already changed your mind and are siding with New Flyer? Don't forget, I still have some of the materials you leaked from New Flyer. You should know very well what kind of consequences you will face if I announce these things. Facing this naked threat, Rem was silent for a long time. After a while, he softly sighed. Don't worry, I have no way out now. If I can't defeat the New Flyer, then everything I've done so far will be meaningless. But Simmerat, are you sure that as long as we get the research materials of the New Flyer, we will be able to develop a better magic machine than the New Flyer? Why not? Simmerat immediately retorted. Don't forget, when we didn't have any experience, we were able to develop the magic fan in the Leo Chamber of Commerce. Now that we have the research materials from the New Flyer as a foundation, we can definitely research even better magic machines. Wella saw from afar that Rem seemed to be shaking his head. I've been in the Research Institute for 2 months, and now I've discovered that the key lies with Sui. Without him, New Flyer would never have been able to develop so many magic machines, nor would it have been possible for every one of them to be of such high quality. So I think that even if we can get those research materials, the most we can do is to replicate the New Flyer's magic machine. Spineless! Simmerat suddenly scolded in a low voice. Rem, could it be that you want to admit defeat at this time? Do you think that it doesn't matter if Sui steals Wella away? Or are you planning on never being able to raise your head in front of Wella? Wella, eavesdropping in the distance, was a bit stunned. Why did the topic suddenly change to her? Moreover, what did he mean by Sui steals Wella away? This was simply strange. Rem was silent for a bit before slowly nodding, as if he was making up his mind. All right, I understand. The Frestek Chamber of Commerce is currently researching a very important technology, so just wait for my good news. When I completely grasp this technology, we'll use it to develop new magic machines ahead of time, and we'll be able to suppress the Frestek Chamber of Commerce. Rem gave a cold laugh. Humph, when the time comes, I want to see if that fellow Sui can still maintain that hateful smile. That's right. Simmerat patted Rem's shoulder. All right, let's leave it at that for today. We shouldn't be together for too long, it's easy to be discovered. Speaking of which, Rem, you picked a place to meet next to Wella's village. You really don't want to give up on her. Aren't you afraid that Wella will see the two of us together and arouse her suspicion? She won't see. Right now she should be playing with her friends somewhere else, so she can't be home. Rem said. Wella was startled, but then she remembered that yesterday when she said that she wanted to take tomorrow off, Rem had heard it and asked her the reason. She was worried that Rem would pester her like usual, so she didn't want to tell Rem the truth and casually said that she wanted to go out with her friends. She didn't think that Rem would believe her and secretly ask Simmerat to meet here. Instead, Wella accidentally discovered the secret between the two of them. Simmerat and Rem talked about some unimportant things before leaving first. Rem stared at Wella's village for a while before turning around and leaving. Wella slowly stood up and looked at Rem's departing figure with eyes full of anger. The reason why she broke up with Rem before was because after Rem came back, his personality was completely different from before. Not only did he not have the high-spirited, enthusiastic, and cheerful attitude he had when he was in Carmilla's pagoda, he had instead become a silent, submissive, and without his own opinions. He even had a trace of flattery on his face. Wella hated this kind of personality, which was why she couldn't bear it and decided to break up with Remington. But she never would have thought that Rem had entered the new flyer for another purpose. Thinking of how Rem pretended to be pitiful in front of her, claiming that he had nowhere to go and begging her to ask Sue to help him enter the new flyer, Wella only felt waves of disgust in her heart. It was said that people would change, but she never would have thought that Rem would become this kind of person. No, I have to immediately tell this to Sue. After her anger passed, Wella immediately woke up. The most important thing at this time was to inform Sue of this situation. If they didn't take precautions and Rem really stole the new flyer's important research material, it would definitely cause a large loss to the new flyer. If this matter really happened, as the person who introduced Rem to the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, Wella would have made a large mistake. When she was about to go home and inform her parents that she had to leave, there was a rustling sound that came from a bush not far from where Wella was hiding, and a person jumped out. Wella was surprised, looking at the person who suddenly jumped out in surprise. She circulated her magic and a fireball condensed in her hand. "Young Miss Wella, please stop." That person waved his hand and shouted at Wella. "I am a reporter from the Banta Times. I am not your enemy." A reporter from the Banta Times? Wella was surprised before instantly reacting. Wella immediately reacted. "Did you follow those two people just now?" Thinking of this, Wella's expression couldn't help changing. If this person really was a reporter from the Banta Times, and had followed Rem and Simmerat here, that meant that Rem and Simmerat's secret contact had already been noticed by the Banta Times. Thinking of the relationship between the Banta Times and Sue, Wella's expression became even uglier. Hashtag, ha ha, Wella, your expression doesn't need to be that ugly. Sue broke out in laughter as he casually pointed at the chair in front of him, signaling for Wella to sit down. "Your guesses are right. I already found that there was a problem with Rem, so I asked my friends from the Banta Times to help me pay attention. I never thought that you would accidentally find out about Rem and Simmerat secretly contacting each other. What do you think about this matter?" Wella looked at the relaxed Sue and thought that Sue had already noticed this and was prepared. It was no wonder that after the reporter from the Banta Times found her, he took the initiative to come out and said that he didn't want her to expose Rem because Sue had other plans. "What do I think?" Wella thought about it before saying with a serious look, "Chairman, Rem is stealing the company's secrets. According to the company's rules, I suggest that you fire him immediately." "Fire him?" Sue revealed a faint smile. He looked at the reporter from the Banta Times, who had brought Wella over, and that reporter tactfully left the room. Seeing that there was only him and Wella left in the room, Sue gave a sigh. "Wella, although I understand your feelings of wanting to protect Rem." "Wait, when did I want to protect Rem?" Wella cut off Sue in a surprised voice. Sue looked at her and said with a faint smile, "If you didn't want to protect him, why would you only have me fire him?" "Wella, could it be that you think that just firing him is enough for the things he has done?" Wella was stunned. Thinking about it, she found that Sue was right. Now she was certain that Rem was working with Simmerat, trying to steal the new flyer's secrets and using this to take down the new flyer. If this was just firing him as a punishment, it was without a doubt too light. Then, Chairman, what are you planning to do? According to the confidentiality agreement we signed, let him compensate? Wella shook her head. I'm afraid he can't take out that much money. He can't take it out? The people behind him can definitely take it out, Sui said with a faint smile. Wella knit her brows. The people behind Simirat definitely won't admit to this matter, so how could they pay compensation for him? Sui shook his head with a smile. Wella, you still don't understand. Actually, in this matter, Rem is just a small matter. The important thing is the people behind him and Simirat. It doesn't matter if they aren't willing to pay for Rem. I have many methods to make them suffer even greater losses. This time, I want those fellows to understand that it's not a problem to obtain benefits from our new flyer. I'm even willing to share many things with everyone. But there is one thing they need to know: they can only take what I give them. If I don't give it, they can't steal or steal it. Wella looked at the smiling Sui in a daze, like she was seeing him for the first time. Chapter 205. Half a month after Wella and Suyi's conversation, a company called Gellert silently appeared in Banta City. This company's products were different from the traditional companies. It was the same as the new flyer, focusing on magic machines. In the beginning, the people of Banta City and the large companies didn't pay much attention to this Gellert Chamber of Commerce because after the new flyer became famous, there were many companies like the Gellert Chamber of Commerce that wanted to learn from the new flyer by relying on magic machines, so it wasn't strange at all. Before this, there were many old companies in Banta City that had the same idea, but at the Business Union Conference, Sui had used facts to shatter the illusions of the companies. After that, there weren't any companies that had any thoughts of competing with the new flyer in the field of magic machines. Although the magic fans' sales outside the city filled the hearts of the companies with a trace of hope, causing some companies in Banta City to invest in magic machine research and manpower, there wasn't a single company that was like before, thinking that they could suppress the Frestek Chamber of Commerce in the field of magic machines. However, when this Gellert Chamber of Commerce was established in Banta City, they put up a very arrogant banner in their store. Gellert Magic Machines, it will give you enjoyment that surpasses the Xinfei brand magic machines. When they first saw this banner, everyone in Banta City snorted in disdain, treating it as a joke. The Banta Times even specially published a report to study the authenticity of the Gellert Chamber of Commerce's banner. However, everyone knew that with the close relationship between the Banta Times and the new flyer, the more serious the report was, the more it was mocking and ridiculing the Gellert Chamber of Commerce. But when the Gellert Chamber of Commerce began selling their Gellert brand magic machines, everyone was surprised to find that not only did the Gellert Chamber of Commerce have many different kinds of magic machines, their quality wasn't worse than the Xinfei brand magic machines. This really shocked the people of Banta City and the surrounding cities. Before this, even though many companies had tried to create their own brand of magic machines based on New Flyer's magic machines, no matter how they tried to imitate them, the quality and performance of their products were far inferior to Xinfei's magic machines. This was also the main reason why the large trade unions couldn't compete with New Flyer and were forced to sell their magic machines in other parts of the Lampari Kingdom. However, the magic machines produced by the Gellert Merchant Guild not only used the same materials as the New Flyer, but the quality of the materials wasn't inferior to the Xinfei brand magic machines either. Even though the quality of the machines wasn't as good as the Xinfei brand magic machines, the difference wasn't too big. If one wasn't picky, they wouldn't be able to make a difference. What was even more shocking was that the Gellert brand magic machines weren't worse than the Xinfei brand magic machines. Even the magic fan and the automatic magic rice cooker were better than the Xinfei brand magic fan and the automatic magic rice cooker. So the Gellert Chamber of Commerce attracted everyone's attention. Everyone felt that the new flyer had truly met a strong opponent this time. But when it came to the appearance of the Gellert Chamber of Commerce, the new flyer didn't have anything special to say. The reporters of Banta City and the surrounding cities all specially interviewed Su Yi because of the appearance of the Gellert Chamber of Commerce, but Su Yi's response was very indifferent. No matter which reporter it was, Su Yi said that he and the new flyer welcomed the appearance of the Gellert Chamber of Commerce. He even hoped that there would be more companies like the Gellert Chamber of Commerce in Banta City and the Lampari Kingdom that were interested in magic machines. Only like this could they promote the popularity of magic machines in the signs. The Gellert Chamber of Commerce didn't respond to Su Yi's response at all. But in just half a month after the Gellert Chamber of Commerce opened, they suddenly sent an invitation to all the reporters of Banta City and the surrounding cities. They invited the reporters of the large newspapers to the Gellert Chamber of Commerce's product announcement. The invitation said that the Gellert Chamber of Commerce would be announcing a new magic machine at this product announcement, one that even the Frestek Chamber of Commerce hadn't developed yet. The first reaction of the reporters who received this invitation was that the Gellert Chamber of Commerce must be dreaming. Up to this point, among the companies that dabbled in magic machines, there wasn't a single company that dared to say such arrogant words. Their reaction after that was that this was a good piece of news. If the Gellert Chamber of Commerce couldn't release a new magic machine at this product announcement, there was no doubt that they would lose face in front of everyone. Of course, the possibility of this was very small. Since the Gellert Chamber of Commerce dared to send out invitations to so many reporters, it was clear that they were very confident in their new product. Otherwise, why would they take such a risk to hold a product launch that could instantly ruin the future of their company? If the Gellert Chamber of Commerce really took out a new magic machine that even the new flyer hadn't developed, this would be even bigger news. All these large and small companies were interested in magic machines, but there wasn't a single company that could develop a new magic machine. Other than proving that the new flyer was far ahead in the field of magic machines, it also proved that researching magic machines was a very difficult matter. If the Gellert Chamber of Commerce that suddenly appeared could do this, they would definitely leave a deep impression in everyone's hearts. Not to mention that what the reporters cared about the most was that on the back of the invitation, it actually stated that the Gellert Chamber of Commerce would try their best to invite the new flyer's chairman Su Yi to come. Although the invitation was very polite, saying that they hoped that Su Yi as a leader in the field of magic machine research could point out some flaws in the Gellert Chamber of Commerce's new magic machine and give some suggestions, all the reporters were clear that this was clearly a provocation to Su Yi and the new flyer. Su Yi. Would he come? August 7th. This was a normal day, but for many people of Banta City, this wasn't a normal day. Because this was the day of the Gellert Chamber of Commerce's product announcement. Simmerat stood on the stage of the product announcement and looked at the reporters of the large newspapers discussing below, as well as the citizens of Banta City curiously looking at him, feeling very smug. After carefully preparing for this long, there was finally a chance to defeat the new flyer and Su Yi in front of him. Although it was impossible to defeat the new flyer just this time, as long as everything went smoothly, with the strength of the people behind him, he would eventually send the new flyer and Su Yi into the abyss, never to rise again. When that time comes, I want to see just how pitiful that fellow Su Yi will become. Simmerat's lips curled into a cruel smile. He couldn't help thinking of how poor Su Yi would be after the new flyer went bankrupt. In the beginning, Simmerat hated Su Yi because Steele and Su Yi were too close. But as time passed, his hatred for Su Yi was mostly because of the existence of the new flyer. His efforts with the magic machines had failed many times, causing all his hard work to go to waste. After accumulating for a long time, he had even forgotten that his original intention was to attract Steele's attention, and it had turned into pure hatred for Su Yi. After patiently waiting for a while, he found that when the product announcement was about to begin, Su Yi still hadn't appeared. Simmerat couldn't help feeling a bit disappointed. He wanted to use the new magic machine that he had developed with the technology stolen from the new flyer to attack Sue-Yi in front of everyone, but he never thought that Sue-Yi would actually avoid him. Coward! Coward! Cimarron cursed fiercely in his heart before raising his spirits and announcing the start of the product announcement. After making a short opening speech and introducing himself as the president of the Gellert Chamber of Commerce, Cimarron didn't waste any more time. He only mentioned the magic machines that the Gellert Chamber of Commerce had produced before as an introduction. Then he had people bring up the new product that everyone had been waiting for. Seeing the two people holding a box that wasn't even as big as Cimarron's head, everyone below the stage let out a sigh of disappointment. President Cimarron, this little thing, could it be the new magic machine you were talking about? It's a bit too small. A reporter couldn't help but say. Yeah, it's so small, no matter how novel it is, it can't be that powerful. Another reporter agreed. Seeing the discussion below the stage, Cimarron smiled and said, You're all wrong. For a magic machine, being small doesn't mean that it doesn't have any meaning. On the contrary, the smaller the magic machine, the more advanced the technology. Think about it, any magic array is very large, but to put these large magic arrays into a small magic machine and have this magic machine produce all kinds of miraculous effects, this is something that requires a lot of skill and difficulty. So don't think that it won't work just because it's small. In fact, our Gellert Chamber of Commerce's new magic machine even contains new technology that new Flyers magic machines don't use. This is a completely epic-making product. Hearing Cimarron's impassioned speech, the people below the stage didn't get excited. Instead, they were even more suspicious. In the end, the Gellert Chamber of Commerce didn't have all kinds of precedents like New Flyer to make everyone believe in them. If this speech was given by Sue-Yi, then everyone below the stage would be eagerly waiting for the appearance of a truly epic-making magic machine. But for this unknown Cimarron, they could only wait and see. Seeing that the people below the stage didn't react enthusiastically, Cimarron couldn't help but feel a bit angry. Could it be that these people don't believe in me? Cimarron lightly snorted in his heart and decided not to bicker with these people. He turned around and prepared to open the box and take out the new magic machine that he had carefully prepared for a long time to surprise everyone below the stage. But at this time, there was a sudden commotion at the entrance of the city hall. Chairman Sue is here. Look, it's Chairman Sue. Following the waves of cries, a familiar figure that Cimarron had seen countless times slowly walked into the city hall. Of course, it was Sue-Yi. Chapter 206. Cimarron stared at the smiling Sue-Yi as he walked in and his heart was filled with hatred. This fellow didn't come early or late, he just had to come when he was about to unveil the Gellert Chamber of Commerce's new magic machine. It was like he had calculated the time. It was hard for him to catch everyone's attention and draw everyone's attention to this new product, but now that Sue-Yi had attracted everyone's attention when he came in, all of Cimarron's efforts had been wasted. Thinking of this, Cimarron took a deep breath and suppressed the hatred in his heart. He put on a sincere smile and raised his voice as he said to Sue-Yi, Chairman Sue, I thought you didn't dare to come. Didn't dare? Hearing this word, the people under the stage couldn't help looking at Cimarron on stage with strange expressions. Wasn't this chairman of the Gellert Chamber of Commerce too arrogant? He actually said that Sue-Yi didn't dare? Why wouldn't he dare? Sue-Yi was also a bit surprised. Walking through the path everyone made, he walked down the stage and looked at Cimarron in surprise. Cimarron, long time no see. I never thought that you would become the chairman of the Gellert Chamber of Commerce. This really is a surprise. The surrounding people were even more surprised. The vice editor-in-chief of the Karma Times, Ryan, couldn't help asking Sue-Yi, Chairman Sue, did you know Chairman Cimarron before? Sue-Yi nodded with a faint smile. Yes, he and I worked at Dharma Camilla's Mage Tower before, and we even worked in the same lab. Speaking of this, Cimarat's name was a bit similar to Great Magician Camilla's. When they were in the lab, many colleagues had teased Cimarat because of this. Hearing Su Yi's response, everyone was stunned. Although everyone already knew that before Su Yi founded New Flyer, he had worked under Great Magician Camilla for a while, they never thought that Cimarat and Su Yi would work in the same lab. But based on how the Gellert Chamber of Commerce targeted New Flyer and Cimarat's attitude towards Su Yi, it could be seen that the relationship between the two of them was definitely not a friendly relationship. Cimarat gave a slight nod and said with a soft snort, "Chairman Su, there are many things that surprise you. When you see our company's new product, don't be so shocked that your chin will fall off." The people under the stage couldn't help knitting their brows. Not mentioning the other aspects of Cimarat, he was just too narrow-minded. After Sui appeared, he looked for him to talk about old times, but there was a hidden edge in each of his words, which really made people feel uncomfortable. "Of course? Let me guess, what is the new product you are going to release in a while?" Cimarat says guess before with the new product with the new product with the new to with the new product to with the new to be to be. The new product you'll be releasing should be the magic kettle, am I right? Everyone was stunned. It didn't matter if Su Yi made a random guess, no one would take it seriously. But he actually accurately guessed the name. Wasn't this too unbelievable? Everyone turned to look at Cimarat and found that he also had a look of shock and disbelief. This made everyone even more shocked. From Cimarat's reaction, could it be that Su Yi's guess was right? Wasn't this a bit ridiculous? Everyone couldn't help looking at Su Yi again and found that his smile was filled with confidence. It was like he wasn't guessing at all and was telling the truth. Seeing this scene, the people with slightly better minds began to make guesses in their hearts. From the reactions of both sides, it seemed like Su Yi already knew about the Gellert Chamber of Commerce's new product, which was why he could calmly appear at this product announcement. But how did he know? Cimarat also wanted to ask this question, but at this time, he couldn't ask in front of everyone. However, even if he didn't ask, the people under the stage saw that he didn't answer for a while and someone couldn't help asking. Rhine loudly asked, "Chairman Cimarat, please tell me, your Gellert Chamber of Commerce's new product, is it really the magic kettle that Chairman Su guessed just now?" Everyone's eyes fell onto Cimarat. Cimarat looked at Su Yi in a daze for a while before revealing a forced smile and taking a deep breath. He was very clear in his heart that he had carefully prepared for this product announcement for half a month. He had done all this preparation and had successfully attracted the attention of everyone in Banta City and the surrounding cities, all for the sake of shocking everyone with a single brilliant feat at this product announcement. However, when Su Yi said the name, Magic Kettle, the surprise and shock of this product announcement had completely disappeared. Thinking of this, Cimarat's hatred for Su Yi increased by a bit. This fellow, why was it that every time he worked so hard for something, it was always easily destroyed by him? However, now wasn't a good time to hate Su Yi. Seeing the gazes of everyone under the stage, Cimarat could only force himself to reveal a smile as he said with a nod, "Chairman Su really cares about our company, actually knowing what new product our company is releasing ahead of time. It seems like I have to ask who was so careless that they leaked this information." Everyone looked at Su Yi again. Although Cimarat admitted to Su Yi's guess, the meaning in his words was clearly accusing Su Yi of stealing the Gellert Chamber of Commerce's secrets. Su Yi's expression didn't change at all, but he didn't refute it. He just pointed at the unopened box and said, "Chairman Cimarat, let's take a look at the main character of this product announcement first." Su Yi didn't refute it, so Cimarat naturally didn't keep pestering him. He took a deep look at Su Yi before turning to open the box. He took out a silver-colored kettle that was similar to the kettles many families use. Seeing the appearance of this thing, Everyone didn't need Simmerat to introduce it, and they all knew that Su Yi's guess was right. This new magic machine that Simmerat claimed to be epic-making, it really was the magic kettle. As expected, Simmerat raised this thing and loudly introduced the functions of this thing to everyone. Although he spoke very passionately, because Su Yi had revealed the name of this thing ahead of time, and adding in the fact that this magic kettle didn't need firewood to boil water, it didn't have any epic-making significance. So the people under the stage found it very boring and couldn't resonate with Simmerat at all. Simmerat could clearly see the reactions of the people under the stage, but he couldn't do a single thing. If it wasn't for Su Yi's appearance, he might have been able to rely on his eloquence and the innovation of the magic kettle to win the cheers of most people, gaining great fame for the Gellert Chamber of Commerce. But after Su Yi appeared and said a few words, the effect of this product announcement had been reduced to its lowest point. Seeing that everyone wasn't interested in his introduction of the magic kettle, Simmerat could only end the long introduction he had prepared. His eyes turned and he suddenly asked Su Yi under the stage, "Chairman Su, what do you think about this magic kettle? Could it be that you don't think it's a pity?" "Pity what?" Su Yi asked back with a faint smile. No one noticed that there was a trace of teasing in his smile, like he was looking at a monkey baring its fangs in front of him. Simmerat didn't notice the deeper meaning hidden in Su Yi's smile and said with a trace of pride, "This magic kettle isn't complicated to make, but your new flyer never thought of it and our Gellert Chamber of Commerce developed it first. As the chairman of New Flyer, who is recognized as the most proficient in magic machines, don't you think it's a pity?" Su Yi gave a shrug and said with a sigh, "I really do feel it's a pity. But it's a pity that our new flyer didn't develop the magic kettle ahead of time, rather it's a pity for you, Simmerat." Simmerat and everyone under the stage were stunned. "A pity for me?" Simmerat looked at Su Yi in confusion. "What is there to pity about me? It's a pity that you have the powerful magic talent that even great magician Camilla praised, but you don't focus on studying magic. It's a pity that you clearly have good ideas about magic machines and have decent talent in studying magic machines, but you don't seriously study how to make magic machines. It's a pity that other than your personality being a bit extreme, you are still a good person, but now you've become a thief and a shameless liar." Su Yi's slow and clear words spread through the hall, instantly stunning everyone. If the first part was Su Yi feeling pity for Simmerat's talent, the last part was clearly a serious accusation against Simmerat. Simmerat was stunned before angrily saying to Su Yi, "Chairman Su, based on what are you calling me a thief and a liar? If you don't have any evidence, I must express my strong dissatisfaction and report you to the Banta City Court for slandering me." "Proof?" Su Yi revealed a faint smile. Simmerat revealed a faint smile. "You really want me to take it out here?" Simmerat was a bit surprised. Seeing the smile on Su Yi's face, he suddenly found that he had fallen into Su Yi's trap. However, he didn't have any path of retreat at this time, so he could only stiffen his neck and say, "That's right. If you can't take out any evidence, I will definitely report you for slandering me and ask the court to give me fairness." "Fairness?" Simmerat gave a cold snort. "You're not worthy of saying this at all. If you want fairness, then where will the researchers of our Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, who worked hard on the magic kettle, ask for fairness? They had spent a lot of time and effort to research this thing, but it had been stolen by a shameless thief. And now, in front of so many people, he was shamelessly declaring that this was something he had researched himself. Do you think this is fair? Chapter 207. Hearing Su Yi's harsh words, everyone in the hall was completely shocked. They thought that Simmerat and Su Yi had some old grudges that caused Simmerat to go against Su Yi, and Su Yi wasn't polite to Simmerat at all. However, hearing what Su Yi said, this Simmerat actually stole the technology developed by New Flyer, He was a thief and a liar. Everyone looked at Su-yi in a daze before turning to Simmerat. The vice editor-in-chief Rhine of the Karma Times reacted the fastest, immediately asking Simmerat in a loud voice, "Chairman Simmerat, is what Chairman Su said true?" The others also reacted at this time and began asking Simmerat in loud voices, "Chairman Simmerat, this magic kettle technology, did you really steal it from New Flyer?" "Chairman Simmerat, if this is true, then the magic machines your Gellert Chamber of Commerce made before, it was because you stole the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's technology that your Gellert Chamber of Commerce could match the Frestec brand in terms of quality and performance?" Chairman Simmerat, in everyone's hearts, they naturally believed Su-yi's words. This was because the New Flyer's achievements since it was established could be seen by everyone. It could be said that if there wasn't New Flyer, there wouldn't be magic machines at all. After a year, in everyone's minds, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce was already equal to magic machines. This made everyone choose to believe in the Frestec Chamber of Commerce and Su-yi when it came to matters related to magic machines. So after Su-yi accused Simmerat and the Gellert Chamber of Commerce of stealing the technology from New Flyer, almost everyone tacitly agreed and began questioning Simmerat. Simmerat looked at Su-yi with a pale face. Of course he was very clear that Su-yi wasn't wrong at all and the questioning of the people under the stage wasn't wrong at all. The Gellert Chamber of Commerce's magic fans and automatic magic rice cookers had the same quality and performance as Shinfei's magic machines because of the information Rem stole from the Academy of Magic. When the Gellert Chamber of Commerce made these magic machines, they obtained a lot of detailed data, so the magic machines they made weren't that different from Shinfei's magic machines. The magic kettle that he carefully prepared this time was of course based on the materials that Rem stole from the magic research facility, as well as some of his own research to be able to make it. It could be said that if Rem didn't steal all the research from the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce, the Gellert's Chamber of Commerce wouldn't be able to make a magic machine. However, faced with Su-yi's accusation and the questioning of everyone under the stage, how could Simmerat easily admit it? His face was ugly as he swept his gaze over the crowd below the stage. He raised his voice and said loudly, "This is slander! This is a shameful slander!" Chairman Su, I thought that since you were my old colleague and the chairman of the New Flyer, you would have your own unique understanding of magic machines, so I invited you to our company's product announcement. I never thought that you would slander me like this in front of all these people. You really have disappointed me. You say that I'm a thief and a liar, but where's your proof? You've been talking for a while and I haven't seen any proof. Do you think anyone will believe you like this? I've already asked you, are you certain you want me to take out the proof now? Su-yi said with a faint smile. Of course. Since you've already slandered me like this in front of everyone, could it be that you don't dare take out proof? Simmerat said in a sharp voice. Come, if you have proof that I stole the technology from your New Flyer, then I swear that our Gellert's Chamber of Commerce will be closed and I, Simmerat, will leave the magic machine industry, never appearing in front of you, Su-yi. Su-yi looked at Simmerat with a bit of a smile. Close the Gellert's Chamber of Commerce? Leave the magic machine industry? Simmerat, you really are good to yourself. Alright, let's not talk about this first. You want proof, right? Alright, I'll give you proof. Come, please hold the magic kettle in your hand, don't break it. Let me tell you, actually there are many things you don't know about this magic kettle. For example, this magic kettle can only hold 1 liter, which means it can only hold 1 kilogram of water. Don't be in a rush to refute this. I know that you want to say that the magic kettle in your hand can hold over 1 kilogram of water, but you definitely don't know what the net at the top of the magic kettle is used for. Let me tell you, if you pour water into the magic kettle and wait until the water level is at the same level as the net, there will be exactly 1 kilogram of water inside. Other than this, this net can also prevent the boiling water from spilling out of the magic kettle. It can also filter some impurities and clean the water source. Other than the net, I think that everyone should have noticed it. On the magic kettle in Chairman Simmerat's hand, the spout is as long as a traditional kettle. However, in our new flyer's original design, this spout was only a small opening at the top of the magic kettle, and we didn't have this long spout that affected the overall appearance. I think that everyone knows that our new flyer places great importance on the appearance of our product. Our motto is to not only give you something useful, but also something nice to look at. Other than that, let's talk about the design of the lid. Everyone can see that the lid is actually semicircular, so why is it designed like this? Actually, it's because, as Sue pointed out the characteristics of the magic kettle in Simmerat's hand bit by bit and analyzed it one by one, Simmerat's expression became more and more ugly. The surrounding people's expressions gradually changed from doubt to certainty. Suyi's analysis of the magic kettle was very accurate and logical. Adding in the fact that he casually mentioned a series of technical parameters, it made everyone believe that his understanding of the magic kettle was very deep, far surpassing Simmerat's introduction of the magic kettle. Hearing Suyi's analysis, everyone gradually believed that this magic kettle was developed by the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. The Gellert Chamber of Commerce and Simmerat Chamber of Commerce had stolen the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's technology to make it first. After talking for a full 10 minutes, Sue finally stopped. After pausing, he looked at Simmerat on stage with a faint smile and said, "Chairman Simmerat, do you think the evidence I've given is enough?" Simmerat rolled his eyes, but he still said with a stiff neck, "How can this be considered evidence? You just mentioned a few characteristics of the magic kettle. How could you prove that I stole the technology from your Frestec Chamber of Commerce? If it was up to me, your new flyer must have bribed our company's researchers and learned the technical parameters of the magic kettle from them. Now you're making a false accusation that we stole the technology from New Flyer. Chairman Sue, I really couldn't tell before that you were such a despicable person." Hearing Simmerat's words, although no one under the stage believed him, they couldn't help looking at Sue, wanting to see how he would refute this. "What? You're not willing to admit it?" Sue smiled and shook his head. He pointed at the magic kettle in Simmerat's hand and said, "All right, I'll give you one last piece of evidence to make you give up. Simmerat, you are a magician, so you shouldn't need a magic crystal to activate the magic array at the bottom of the magic kettle, right?" Simmerat nodded in a daze. "All right, then please raise the magic kettle and put it in front of everyone before using your magic to activate the magic array." Sue said, "You're not adding water?" Simmerat couldn't help asking. "No need." Simmerat knit his brows. His heart was confused, but he still followed Suyi's instructions and poured his magic into the magic kettle. The magic array at the bottom of the magic kettle was activated, and after a while, the bottom of the magic kettle became boiling hot from the high temperature of the magic array. After waiting for around 2 minutes, the magic kettle still didn't change at all. Simmerat couldn't help saying in an impatient voice, "Chairman Sue, where's the evidence you mentioned?" Sue said with a faint smile, "Be a bit more patient. It'll be done in around 3 minutes. Everyone could only look at the magic kettle again and patiently wait. After 3 minutes, there was a faint burnt smell coming from the bottom of the magic kettle because of the high temperature. When everyone couldn't help asking Sue again, they suddenly heard a "pa" sound from the magic kettle. Then everyone found that the red light from the small window at the bottom of the magic kettle had disappeared, which meant that the magic array at the bottom had stopped working. Simmerat used his magic several times, but he felt that the magic array at the bottom of the magic kettle didn't react at all. He coldly looked at Sue and said, "Chairman Sue, you want to tell me that our Gellert Chamber of Commerce's magic kettle has a flaw?" "No, it's the opposite. The magic array at the bottom of the magic kettle stopping in this situation is actually a kind of protective measure," Sue replied. because the base of the magic kettle is where the fire magic array is. If there isn't any water in the kettle and the magic array is empty like this, after a while, the magic kettle will be damaged from the high temperature. With this design, if the magic kettle is accidentally activated without any water, it can prevent it from being damaged from being overheated. Everyone understood and couldn't help praising this design. It was indeed very considerate. Ryan couldn't help saying, "This design reminds me of the Magic Machine's new flyer released before." On those Magic Machines there were also designs that people couldn't think of, but they were very useful and considerate. Although this wasn't explicitly said, it was clearly confirming Su Yi's accusation against Cimarron. Cimarron's expression couldn't help becoming even uglier as he said to Su Yi, "Chairman Su, this is indeed a very considerate design for our magic kettle. Since you've bribed our company's researchers, it isn't strange for you to know this. But this thing, how can it be used as evidence to prove your words? You're still not willing to give up?" Su Yi revealed a faint smile. "Alright, turn the magic kettle over and point the base at everyone, let everyone take a look." Cimarron strangely turned the magic kettle over and pointed the base at everyone under the stage, as he also looked over. On the base of the magic kettle, although the magic array had stopped working, there were still red lines left. When they came together, they formed a pattern that everyone was very familiar with. Half a wing, it meant Xinfei. Chapter 208. The matter of the Gellert Chamber of Commerce's product announcement was reported by the various newspapers and quickly spread through Banta City and the surrounding cities. In just a single night, the Gellert Chamber of Commerce became a rat that everyone wanted to beat up. The various magic machines that the Gellert Chamber of Commerce made instantly lost their sales, and even became something that everyone avoided like a plague. Of course, sales weren't important to the Gellert Chamber of Commerce, because after the product announcement, the Gellert Chamber of Commerce announced their closure and Chairman Cimarron had disappeared without a trace. To everyone, this Cimarron and the Gellert Chamber of Commerce he opened were shameful thieves and swindlers. There was no chance of them making a comeback. Moreover, when they connected the Gellert Chamber of Commerce and Cimarron's actions in the past month, everyone felt like they were watching a clown's performance. It was very funny. Thinking of how the Gellert Chamber of Commerce dared to say that they could surpass New Flyer, everyone couldn't help giving a snort of disdain. After this matter, the New Flyer's position in people's hearts was stabilized and raised again. Now everyone thought that perhaps the New Flyer wasn't strong enough. It wasn't the biggest company in Banta City, and it wasn't one of the strongest companies in the Lampari Kingdom, but in terms of magic machines, there wasn't a single company that could compare to it. There wasn't a single person or company that could compete with the New Flyer in this field. As for the Xinfei brand magic machines, people placed even more importance on them. After this matter, the sales of the various magic machines of the New Flyer increased. It was clearly the end of August and summer was about to end, but the sales of the Xinfei brand magic fans, magic air conditioners, and magic freezers that were mainly used in summer had a strong rebound, reaching a small peak again. When the final statistics were done at the end of the month, Su Yi was surprised to find that New Flyer's sales of household magic machines didn't decrease compared to July, rather it increased. This really was an unexpected pleasant surprise. Su Yi's initial response to this matter was only to find out who was the mastermind behind Cimarron's actions. Then, through this arrangement, he would cause the other party to suffer losses. This would also serve as a warning to the other party. He had never considered the benefits that New Flyer would receive from this matter. Now, not only had the original plan succeeded, Cimarron had been severely punished, and the people behind him had also suffered great losses because of their investment in the Gellert Merchant Guild. Moreover, New Flyer had actually profited because of this. It was like throwing a stone that accidentally hit two birds. As a result, Su Yi was in a good mood during this period of time. But when he saw the expressionless Wella, his good mood could no longer be maintained. Sue-yi looked straight into Wella's eyes, not avoiding her gaze at all. After looking at each other for a long time, he finally sighed, slowly but firmly shook his head. No. Weena, I can't promise you that. Rem made a huge mistake this time. If I let him go because of you, how can I face the other researchers in the research institute? How can we face all the employees of our Frestec Chamber of Commerce? Or to be more direct, I don't want to let him go. Towards Su-yi's reply, Wella seemed a bit surprised. After raising her eyebrows, her expression returned to normal. Why? I heard from Evita that you were in cahoots with her this time, weren't you? If it wasn't like this, Rem wouldn't have been able to take away so much research data from the Research Institute so easily. To be honest, it was because you allowed him to make such a big mistake. No, you're wrong. Su-yi shook his head. Although Evita and I did put on a show for him, Wella, if Rem didn't have such intentions, then what's the point of us putting on a show? Moreover, according to Simmerat's explanation, Rem wanted to enter New Flyer from the beginning, so he already had bad intentions. If I didn't unintentionally notice his problem, then our company would have suffered great losses because of this. Wella was silent, and the room immediately fell into silence. Su-yi looked at Wella's complicated expression and couldn't help but sigh. Wella, you've already broken up with Rem, so why are you still thinking about him? You've never been willing to beg anyone before, but now you've begged me twice because of him. Could it be that, at this time, you still think he's worth it? Wella finally couldn't maintain her calm expression. A trace of sadness floated onto her face as she softly said, He was once the closest person to me, It's very hard for me to completely abandon him. Su-yi bitterly smiled in his heart. He thought that the more Wella looked cold on the outside, the more passionate she was on the inside. It was clearly Wella who felt that Rem's personality wasn't suitable for her and chose to break up with Rem, but now she still lowered her arrogant head in front of Su-yi because of Remington. Although Su-yi admired Wella's spirit, it didn't mean he agreed. Sorry Wella, I still can't promise you this matter. Rem did something wrong and he has to be punished for it. He's already an adult and can't be like a child who has the opportunity to casually make mistake. Su-yi sternly said. Wella once again looked at Su-yi. Su-yi still didn't look away and looked straight at her. Seeing Su-yi's resolute expression, Wella knew that she couldn't change his mind. She could only lower her eyelids and lightly nod her head. All right, I understand. Seeing that Wella was about to leave the room, Su-yi thought for a bit and inwardly sighed. He opened his mouth to call out to Wella. Wella, I can't promise you anything else, but I can promise you one thing. I'll preserve Rem's most basic reputation. Wella's originally calm eyes suddenly lit up and a trace of a smile finally appeared on her face. Then she solemnly bowed to Su-yi. President, thank you. This was the first time Wella had used such a respectful tone to address Su-yi. Su-yi waved his hand and Wella turned to leave. Seeing the door close again, Su-yi couldn't help but sigh again. Because the commerce in signs wasn't as developed as on Earth, there wasn't a complete set of laws related to commerce in any of the signs. Like this, even if Su-yi exposed Rem and Simmerat's shameful actions and provided enough evidence, but because there wasn't any law to support it, he couldn't give them a reasonable punishment. Although according to the rules of the Lampari Kingdom or the entire signs, if they stole the secrets of other companies, they would definitely suffer the retaliation of the company that stole the secret. However, Su-yi didn't plan to do this because he felt that it was meaningless to specifically target Rem and Simmerat. From Su-yi's point of view, punishing these two was a small matter. Therefore, establishing the relevant laws and regulations was a big matter. Therefore, after a secret discussion with the Count directly captured Rem and Simmerat and sent them to the kingdom's Commerce Department in Anvilmar City. According to the regulations of the Commerce Department, These two would be prohibited from working in any company for 10 years. They also weren't allowed to do any business that exceeded a certain amount. At the same time, because of their status as magicians, they were also punished by the Sorcerers' Guild. Not only did the Sorcerers' Guild strip them of their status as magicians, they were also prohibited from participating in the Sorcerers' Guild's certification exam for 20 years. Simply put, from now on, they wouldn't be considered as official magicians recognized by the Sorcerers' Guild. Although the punishment from the Commerce Department and the Sorcerers' Guild was a huge blow to the two of them, it was equivalent to stripping them of their original status. Moreover, it would greatly affect their lives in the future. However, Sue wasn't satisfied with this result. This was because, according to the laws of Earth, these two's actions were already considered business espionage. Moreover, the degree of their actions was enough to reach the standard of a criminal sentence, and they would be arrested and sent to jail. However, the Lampari Kingdom didn't have such a law, so Sue could only add on to the punishment according to the confidentiality agreement he signed with Remington. This additional punishment was very severe. According to the agreement, Rem had to pay a large amount of compensation for selling out the secrets of the new flyer, and was also prohibited from working in any industry related to magic machines for the rest of his life. The latter didn't affect Rem much for the time being, but the large amount of compensation was something Rem couldn't afford. This amount was as high as 50,000 gold coins. With Rem's salary of at most 30 gold coins a month, he wouldn't be able to pay it back even if he worked for the rest of his life. Regarding this point, the kingdom's laws had another related rule. If the debt signed by the debtor was too high and exceeded the debtor's income by 100 times in the previous year, it would prove that the debtor was unable to repay the debt. Regarding this point, the kingdom's laws stated that if the debtor couldn't prove that he had the ability to repay the debt within a year, then after a year, all of the debtor's assets would be handed over. If the debtor was still unable to repay the debt after handing over all of his assets, then according to the kingdom's laws, the debtor could only repay the debt with his own body. Thus, he would be judged as the debtor's slave. Rem didn't have a stable income for the past year. Even if he calculated everything, it wouldn't exceed 300 gold coins. If it was 100 times, it would only be 30,000 gold coins. It was still 20,000 gold coins short of the compensation of 50,000 gold coins. Rem's family wasn't well off, so even if he mortgaged all of his assets, he still wouldn't be able to repay the debt after a year. In other words, if nothing unexpected happened, then after a year, Rem would be judged as Suyi's slave by the kingdom's laws. For a mage like Rem who used to have a high status, this was undoubtedly a humiliation that he couldn't accept. Thus, even if Wella had already broken up with him, she still couldn't help but plead with Sue. Of course, Sue wasn't willing to let Rem off so easily, but after careful consideration, he still promised Wella that he would preserve Rem's reputation. As for how to preserve it, that would depend on Suyi's choice. Compared to Rem, Sue actually hoped that Cimarat would be severely punished. Although Rem was despicable, but if it wasn't for Cimarat's instigation, he wouldn't have walked down this path of evil. Thus, strictly speaking, Cimarat was the mastermind and should be punished more severely than Remington. However, there wasn't any contract between Cimarat and Sue, and according to the kingdom's laws, he couldn't be punished in any way. The punishment he received was nothing more than the punishment given to him by the Business Administration Department and the Magicians' Guild. Compared to the terrifying punishment of Rem being turned into a slave, Cimarat's public punishment wasn't painful at all. Of course, this was only a public punishment. In reality, when Cimarat was escorted to Anvilmar City, he was taken away by the kingdom's northern army in the name of an emergency transfer and sent to the northern battlefield. Although he wouldn't be sent to the battlefield to die for unknown reasons, Viscount Leslie had clearly stated in his letter to Sue E that this honorable magician Cimarat would be warmly welcomed by the elite soldiers of the Northern Army. In less than half a year, this magician's delicate but would become unrecognizable. Chapter 209. Perhaps to the people of Banta City and the surrounding cities, the Gellert Chamber of Commerce's matter was very serious and the consequences would be very serious, but to Sue E, he really didn't put this matter in his heart. In the process of New Flyer's development there would be all kinds of problems. For these villains to try and harm the New Flyer, it was something that Sue E had already expected, so it wasn't worth wasting too much effort on. To Sue E, compared to the ultimate goal in his heart, any problem he encountered in the process of realizing his goal was like a stone on the road. If he encountered it, he would move on, and the most important thing was that he didn't want to delay his progress too much. So when the Gellert Chamber of Commerce's matter came to an end, Sue E made another move. At the beginning of September, the New Flyer held another press conference. But it wasn't a product press conference, but rather a press conference. The reporters from the various newspapers who received the invitation from the New Flyer were very confused. Everyone was familiar with product press conferences, but what was a press conference? Was it news? But for something like news, shouldn't it be discovered and reported by the various newspapers? Did they need the New Flyer to announce it? The reporters all doubtfully came to the press conference set by the New Flyer. They found that compared to the product press conference, the press conference was much smaller. Other than the reporters from the various newspapers, there weren't any normal people who came to watch the show like the product press conference. Seeing this, the reporters immediately understood. It seemed like the New Flyer's announcement really was news. Didn't they see that the audience were all reporters? As for whether this news was big or not, they could only wait and see. Not long after, Sue E brought his two assistants over and sat down on the stage. When he sat down, a reporter under the stage raised his hand and asked, "Chairman Sue, can I ask what kind of news your New Flyer will be announcing?" The other reporters around him all glared at him. Who directly went for the main topic. Didn't they know the rules? Sue E revealed a faint smile and shook his head as he replied, "Before I announce the news, let me first mention something to everyone. This matter is actually related to the Gellert Chamber of Commerce." In front of the reporters, Sue E described the Gellert Chamber of Commerce's matter. Regarding this matter, whether it was the people of Banta City or the surrounding cities, they were all very clear on this matter. These reporters from the various newspapers were very clear on this matter. But hearing Sue E talk about this matter himself, it was from a different angle. Everyone was still interested in it, and they could hear a different meaning from Sue Ye's words. Actually, I've said it a long time ago. The Frestek Chamber of Commerce and I welcome other companies to enter the magic machine industry and research magic machines with our Frestek Chamber of Commerce, because only like this can this industry truly develop. Sue E suddenly changed the topic. But it's very strange. I've said this to many people, but there are very few people who believe me. There was even an example of the Gellert Chamber of Commerce stealing our Frestek Chamber of Commerce's technology. I really feel that this is a pity and I'm very helpless. Actually, it isn't that hard to obtain our New Flyer's technology, so why do they need to steal it? Hearing this, the reporters under the stage were all stunned. Sue Ye's words weren't completely true, right? The New Flyer's magic machines were this profitable. So which company didn't want to obtain the New Flyer's technology? They wanted to obtain the ability to make their own magic machines and earn large amounts of money. But up until now, there wasn't a single company that had obtained the New Flyer's technology. Other than the Frestek Chamber of Commerce keeping it a secret, what other reason was there? Chairman Sue, if we don't steal it, how can we obtain your New Flyer's technology? A reporter asked in a loud voice. Sue E revealed a faint smile. Other than using shameful methods like stealing and robbing, what is the most common method to obtain the things we want? The reporters looked at each other in blank dismay. This question was a bit vague. Even though the reporters were all quick-witted, no one could answer it in a short period of time. Only a very young female reporter, who looked like she had just joined the news agency, raised her hand and replied loudly, "I know, buy it with money." The other reporters all looked at her with disdain. Nonsense, everyone knew that the most common method was to buy it, but even if you wanted to buy it, you had to be willing to sell it to New Flyer. If New Flyer was willing to sell its unique magic machine technology, then it was certain that there would be a bunch of companies fighting to buy it. But out of the reporter's expectations, Sue actually nodded lightly in response to the young female reporter's answer and smiled. "That's right, buy it." The reporters under the stage were all stunned. A reporter from the Sultan Morning News immediately asked, "Chairman Sue, are you serious? Your Frestek Chamber of Commerce is really planning on selling the magic machine technology? Why not?" Sue spread his hand and gave a shrug as he said with a relaxed look, "Since there are people who want it, why wouldn't we be willing to sell it? Actually, this press conference today is to tell everyone a piece of news. Our New Flyer is planning to sell a part of our magic machine technology." As soon as Sue's voice fell, there was an uproar under the stage as all the reporters became excited. If Sue wasn't joking, then this would definitely be the biggest news in the near future. New Flyer was actually going to sell their magic machine technology. Didn't this mean that in Banta City and the surrounding cities, or even the entire Lampari Kingdom, there would be more companies that could produce magic machines that weren't inferior to the Shinfei brand? If it was like this, it would really be like what Sui said. Magic machines would quickly spread across the kingdom, allowing everyone in the kingdom to experience the ease and convenience brought by magic machines. Sui had told many reporters before that the magic machine industry would bring a historical change to the Lampari Kingdom, so it wouldn't be empty words. While the reporters were excitedly imagining this beautiful scene, there was a calm voice that sounded in the hall. "Chairman Sue, may I ask, which part of the technology your New Flyer is transferring is related to?" It was like a bucket of cold water had been poured over them as all the excited reporters instantly calmed down. That's right, Sue had just said that he would be selling a part of the technology. He didn't say that he would be selling the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce's magic machine technology. The difference was just too big. Seeing that everyone's eyes were focused on him, Sue nodded with a smile of praise at the Karma Times vice editor Ryan, who had asked this question before replying, "Of course, it's impossible for us to sell all of our technology, rather we will be selling it in batches." There were sighs that filled the hall. It was clear that the reporters were very disappointed with Sue's answer. Sue couldn't help smiling. "I understand everyone's disappointment, but I ask everyone to understand that our New Flyer also needs to earn money, right? If we sell all the technology that we have, our Frestek Chamber of Commerce might not be able to continue existing. Do you want to see this result?" The reporters looked at each other before giving dry laugh. "Chairman Sue, of course I don't want your New Flyer to cease to exist," Ryan said with a straight face. "Because in my opinion, your New Flyer is the most innovative Chamber of Commerce, or more accurately, Chairman Sue, you are the most innovative person. Without you, New Flyer wouldn't have been able to develop so many new and useful magic machines. And if it wasn't for New Flyer, I even suspect that the entire magic machine industry would disappear." "Thank you for the compliment." Sue smiled and nodded. "But I have to say that even if our New Flyer doesn't exist, the magic machine industry will continue to develop and won't be affected in any way. Because people have already experienced the convenience that magic machines bring, there is enough demand for them. Since there is such demand, this industry won't disappear. But I still think that no Chamber of Commerce can compare to your New Flyer in this aspect, or rather, Chairman Sue," Ryan insisted. The surrounding reporters heard Ryan's words and couldn't help secretly nodding. In the year that New Flyer had been established, there were countless examples that proved Ryan's point. Not only these reporters, the people of Banta City and the surrounding cities had already considered the New Flyer a synonym for magic machines. Perhaps no one could imagine what a magic machine without the New Flyer would be like. "Thank you for everyone's support, I really am honored." Sui laughed. "But let's return to the main topic. I just said that our New Flyer will be selling a portion of the technology. Now I announce that the first batch to be sold is the magic kettle technology that the Gellert Chamber of Commerce stole from our New Flyer. We welcome any company that wants to buy this technology to discuss with us. At the same time, we promise that when we sell this technology, we will help the company that buys this technology to absorb it, ensuring that the other side can independently produce a complete magic kettle. Of course, we hope that the companies that want to buy this technology can work closely with our New Flyer. Don't." The reporters under the stage focused on listening while desperately writing down every single word that Sui said in their notebooks. They all had a vague feeling that today's press conference would change the entire Lampari kingdom, even changing the entire signs. Every word that Sui said today might be engraved in the pages of history, being passed down by everyone. Chapter 210. Hey Sui, I've only been gone for a month, and you've already made such a wasteful decision. Are you planning on angering me to death? Heinz's face turned red and he angrily complained to Sui, "You can sell anything, why do you have to sell technology? Could it be that our New Flyer is lacking money?" Sui looked at Heinz with a smile. Not only was he not angry at all from being scolded, rather he felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. It was like Heinz said, because Ria had taken the initiative to go to Karma City last month, Heinz had been gone for a month. However, when he came back early this time, he directly found Sui and complained about his decision at the press conference. "Who said that we're lacking money?" Sui shook his head with a smile. "According to CBAS statistics, our company's total profit last month was a bit higher than July, reaching a shocking 480,000 gold coins. Adding in the fact that we didn't spend much money last month, how could we lack money?" "Then tell me, why are you selling technology?" Seeing Sui's uncaring expression, Heinz felt the flames of anger in his heart rise. "Even if you're selling technology, why are you selling all the technology related to the magic kettle? Could it be that you think that there would be a stupid company that would only buy a part of the technology and not be able to make the magic kettle after buying it?" Sui said. "No one is that stupid, but I feel that you're stupid this time." Heinz loudly said, "Didn't you always tell me that technology is the foundation of a company, especially for a company like our New Flyer that relies on technology to make a living? Now that you've sold all the technology related to the magic kettle, are you planning on not letting us make our own magic kettle?" I am indeed planning on doing this." Heinz thought that Sui would argue a bit, but he never thought that he would directly admit it, causing him to choke on his breath. After taking a few deep breaths, Heinz tried his best to calm himself down. He asked Sui seriously, "Tell me honestly why? I know that no matter what decision you make, you always have your own ideas. But this time, I can't figure out how selling the technology will benefit New Flyer. What if I told you that I'm not selling the technology for New Flyer's own benefit? What would you think?" Sui asked. "You?" Heinz's eyes widened, but he immediately forced himself to calm down. He took a deep breath and glared fiercely at Sui. "Sooner or later, I'll die of anger because of you. Fine, even if your decision this time isn't for the sake of New Flyer, then tell me, what is it for?" Sui smiled. "Actually, I was just joking. This decision doesn't benefit New Flyer at all for the time being, but it's actually very beneficial in the long run." "Where is the benefit?" To put it bluntly, I'm selling the technology for the magic kettle to quickly popularize the magic machines. Like this, those companies that bought the technology could truly make the complete magic kettle. This time, I've also guaranteed that our new flyer won't make the magic kettle, so they don't need to worry about the strong competition from our Xinfei brand magic kettle. They can invest even more without any scruples. Sui said. If it's just like this, we can also popularize the magic machines by making the magic kettle ourselves. Why would we be in a rush to give all the profits from the magic kettle to others? Heinz wasn't in a rush at this time and calmly analyzed to Sui, according to my estimates, because the magic kettle is cheap and it's used frequently, almost every family will use it. Once it's released, the sales will be very high. I don't believe that you can't calculate something that I can calculate. Of course I can. Sui nodded. Heinz nodded. But Heinz, have you calculated how much profit a single magic kettle makes? Heinz thought for a bit before replying with knitted brows. Although it can't compare to the magic air conditioner, the magic freezer, or even the automatic magic rice cooker, I feel that it should be around the same profit as the magic fan. Even if it doesn't make 1 gold coin, it shouldn't be a problem to make 70 to 80 silver coins. Adding in the high sales volume, the profit should be quite good. Sui slowly shook his head. No, you're too optimistic. Actually, according to my estimates, it's hard for the magic kettle to surpass 1 gold coin, so no matter how high the profit is, it's hard for it to reach 70 to 80 silver coins. Heinz was a bit confused. Why can't you set the price a bit higher? Anyway, as long as you don't sell the technology, the magic kettle will only be produced by our company. Even if the price is a bit higher, I feel that people will still buy it. No, it's different this time. We could set the price at will before because we were the only company producing it. But with the Gellert Chamber of Commerce as an example, everyone knows about the magic kettle ahead of time, so there won't be any novelty or impact, so the price will be affected. Moreover, you should be very clear that the technology behind the magic kettle isn't that high. As long as those companies are willing to spend a bit of time researching magic machines, they will definitely be able to make it. But their magic kettles can't compare to our Xinfei brand. What are you afraid of? Heinz said in an unconvinced voice. Sui shook his head. Our Xinfei brand magic machines are better than the magic machines of the other companies mainly because of our outstanding industrial design. This time the magic kettle's industrial design is already known by everyone, so we don't have the unique advantage of before. So our magic kettle isn't that much better than the magic kettles of the other companies. Hearing Sui's response, Heinz couldn't help angrily glaring at Sui. If you didn't reveal all these secrets at that press conference, how could others know about our unique industrial design? Sui revealed a grin. What if I told you that I did it on purpose? Heinz was stunned. Could it be that you were already prepared to sell the magic kettle technology? Of course, otherwise why did you think that I didn't choose anything and had Evita choose a part of the magic kettle technology that Rem stole? Heinz couldn't help looking over Sui before saying with a sigh, Sui, I've suddenly found that you are actually such a sinister fellow. Many thanks for your praise. Sui revealed a smile before continuing, so, even if I didn't sell the magic kettle technology, it wouldn't mean much to our new flyer. We wouldn't earn that much from keeping it, so it would be better to sell it. Heinz looked at Sui. Isn't this what you asked for? If you immediately took care of Rem when you found that there was a problem, how could all these things have happened? Sui shook his head with a smile, thinking that Heinz's pettiness couldn't be changed. To him, New Flyer had suffered a loss in this matter, so he was very dissatisfied. If he wanted to change his thoughts, he could only think from his point of view. Sui thought about it before saying to Heinz, actually, the benefits of this matter for our new flyer aren't all long-term. In the short term, there are still many benefits. Heinz revealed an interested look. Is that so? What benefits? Tell me about it. First, we didn't just sell the magic kettle technology to a single company this time, rather we set a fixed price and conditions. All companies that are willing to buy or accept these conditions can buy it. So in less than a week, there are over 20 companies that have asked us about buying the technology. Heinz was shocked. What is the situation? How many companies are willing to buy it? How much are they prepared to pay? It's not clear right now. But based on their enthusiasm, I estimate that there are at least 15 companies that are willing to buy it. My price for the technology is 10,000 gold coins. At the same time, for each magic kettle made by the companies that buy the technology, they have to pay our new flyer 1 silver coin. It's a bit like the cooperation we had with the Farsak Chamber of Commerce before. Heinz cut in. It is a bit similar. But this time, I'm planning on continuing this model for a long time. Sui said with a smile. I always hoped that the kingdom's parliament would pass a patent law, but it never came to pass. Since the kingdom's parliament doesn't care, we'll do it ourselves. As long as there are enough companies that buy our technology and sign this contract, it will be equal to those companies buying our patents. If this model is gradually spread and accepted by everyone, it will be equal to us creating our own patent law. Heinz thought for a bit before nodding. This is indeed a good method. But we can only earn a trivial 1 silver coin for each magic kettle. This really is a bit too little. Seeing Heinz sigh, Sui patted his shoulder and said with a smile, Perhaps you feel that this amount is very little now, but believe me, you'll find in the future that we can earn a silver coin for each magic kettle even if we don't do anything. This is already quite a bit. Because not long after, the era of large profits for household magic machines will come to an end. Heinz looked at Sui in a daze. Even if he wasn't willing, he had to admit that Sui's words weren't wrong at all. Although competition would bring progress, it was easy for competition to thin out profit. This truth had been proven in all the science industries. Although the magic machine industry was a new industry, it couldn't escape from this iron law. The only thing Heinz could do was to pray that this time would come as late as possible. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.